All right, everybody, welcome back to the show today. I have the pleasure and I'm so excited to talk to this gentleman. When I first got into the podcasting game and I was looking at conspiratorial podcasts, I found this gentleman. I found the NY Patriot. I found the Occult Rejects podcast. Was super fascinated by his work. And today, like I said, I have the honor and the pleasure of welcoming to the Politics and Punk Rock podcast the NY Patriots, sir. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you very much. And thanks for that intro. And that's wild that you actually, I feel like most people come across us from I don't know, like neither seeing posts or somebody telling somebody about us. It's wild that you came across this randomly. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, man. I was
That's pretty
just,
cool.
when I started looking at and listening to what kind of podcasts were out there when I had the idea for my show, I came across you and Great Deception Matt, of course,
Oh, nice.
Dangerous
Yeah.
World by Ryan Dean, Dangerous World
Oh,
podcast. And
those are
I've
all
been
great shows, too.
Yeah, yeah, and so I just kind of compiled, like, a lot of people say they have the rotation of podcasts, and so I had mine, and I had, like, 5 or 6 I was listening to, and all you guys were in there, and so now that I'm in the game and I've been doing it for about a year and a half, going on 2 years now, I'm super excited,
Oh, fuck.
to have the
Nice.
opportunity to chat with all you guys, so, um,
That's
s
great. You've been doing it for that long, huh?
yeah, I'm still kind of fresh, still kinda just getting my feet under me. I've
Well, you
learned
got
a
past the
lot.
year. That's huge. Most podcasts don't, to be
Yeah,
totally
oh,
honest with
yeah.
you.
Well, and and for me, I got the opportunity to partner with Allegedly Records. I'm a big ex-punk rocker, and
Nice.
they
Nice.
let me have access to play and promote any of the artists on their in their catalog. So you put the two together, and it was just a match made in heaven. And I'm loving it, man. I'm loving every second of it. I'll probably do this forever.
I got. You know
So,
what I got to do? I got to find this guy's show. Forgive me. I can't remember the name of the actual show, but I've had this kid Oz on that's friends with this dude Matt, who's been on my show a few times, and they're like a punk rock kind of conspiracy podcast,
oh
and
shit.
they're punk rock musicians. I got to hook you guys up
Oh,
because you
dude, I
guys
definitely
might
got to hear that.
that might be fun as fuck for you guys to do something together.
See, and I'm always looking for stuff like that. I just found discovered the guys from the Hard Rock It's a Hard Rock Life podcast. They're gonna have live shows and they talk about conspiracies and all the usual stuff. And they're
Oh
all
yeah, and they're funny as fuck too. They have a
yeah, yeah.
laugh. You know, it's great
My
stuff.
my last episode was like a 4 hour long banger. We hashed out and they split the show into a couple shows. I just put it
Oh,
all
nice.
into one
Fuck.
just to get it in. But yeah, so yeah, man, give my audience just a little background on you. If any of my listeners haven't heard about you and haven't discovered your work yet, just kind of give them your bio about how you were into the occult and into that whole thing, and then you decided to dip out at some point. Feel
Yeah.
free, go over that, man.
Yeah, so I am the NY Patriot, go by the NY Patriot. I was well, I am an ex-member. I used to be an active member of the Ordo Templi Orientis. I guess just real quick, I mean, as a kid, when growing up, I had believed in ghosts, aliens. I believed magic was real. You see the shit on the TV,
Oh yeah,
especially Disney blasts it in your face.
for
So,
sure.
like, you know, what's funny? I always really liked Fantasia. So I guess like that kind of was like a lot of magic in itself. That whole show. So that whole movies. But just to preface, like even growing up in a Christian household, like even my parents had believed in possible ghosts, and even my dad used to say it's kind of stupid to think we're the only form of life. So I would just, I was very open to these things. And growing up, I did know people that claimed to be witches. I got into witchcraft as I got into my teens. I kind of didn't really. I mean, I dabbled once or twice with like a few friends, like be the equivalent to like an Ouija board at that time. You know what I'm saying? It probably
Yeah,
wasn't doing anything. We just thought it was fucking, dark and edgy.
yeah.
We really didn't do anything, but I knew people that claimed to and definitely dressed like they were a witch, so they could tell everybody, "Look at me, I'm a witch." You know what I'm saying? Like they had the look and all that. So I definitely found it interesting, and because I had known a few people, I did believe it was real.
Right.
So even as a younger kid, in my teens and getting into my 20s, I was very open to that. And, even in my mid 20s, honestly, kind of like 9/11 kind of woke me up too, like kind of made me think that like maybe this world isn't as it seems.
Absolutely.
You know, I can remember it, and I was even saying it yesterday because someone brought up Howard Stern. I was at a family thing. We were talking about like shit from the past, and I told him I
Wow.
was like, I specifically remember the day because I was working. I was working at a place at a store, and it was like a seafood spot or whatever, like where they, regular, 5 pounds of this or whatever. I wasn't serving like a restaurant. It was just like you went there to buy
Right.
seafood stuff, and we had the radio on. It was, it was earlier. The store was kind of dead already. It may not even been open. I might have been just setting everything up actually. And I remember hearing that shit on the radio. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah.
And I remember specifically, fucking specifically, within an hour or two of that happening, listening to cops in the fire department talk about explosions.
Oh yeah.
And then by the end of the day, that shit was wiped and there was a totally different story. And I remember then I was like, yo, something's fucked up.
100%.
Yeah. And so then that kind of started opening my mind to at least, I guess, being open to start thinking about conspiracies. So later on in my conspiracy days, when I started getting heavy into it, I came across, like you mentioned yourself before, Jordan Maxwell, David Icke, Tassarian. God, who's the guy who did Behold the Pale Horse? Fuck, I can't believe I forgot his name.
Cooper.
Yeah, it was like
William
one of
Cooper.
the OGs of the shit. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Some other old guy that I think his shit was so old, it might have been in black and white, or like it sounds like the shit came off of fucking records. I forgot his name, but a Project Camelot, like all like big shows back in like 2000, the late first decade of the 2008, between
Right.
2008 and 2010. Like a lot of people that were getting big then. I started getting into, and I don't know if it was because, like I said, even just those names, they kind of really, go and delve into occultism.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it was that's what I liked about them, but a lot of the people I started listening to getting into conspiracies were big on that and aliens. And so I started to quickly, like, I'm thinking back in my head, I'm like, well, I knew people who were witches when I was a kid. I was like, on my block, actually, houses down, there was like open Satanists that lived there. I mean, like, oh yeah, they had a death metal band. You'd hear the shit coming through the fucking windows. They had friends. I remember as a kid seeing their friends like for band practice. Literally, like they took spray painted or marked or whatever. They had like fucking talismans and sigils all over their shit, even their cars. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, yo, this is some weird fucking shit.
It's all in their face, yeah.
Yeah, so like all that stuff like really made me think like, maybe there is something with occultism magic. Like maybe there is like that element that's kind of like manipulating society, the world, the way we think. So I got into that very much and kind of started going down that rabbit hole for a while. Listened to other stuff and was still into other things, but that was always like my main interest. And at some point going through my own stuff, and I hate to say it, and this isn't like thank God there is shows out there now that are still putting out information, but for myself, I hate to say it, at one point, and I do think it's kind of a mind fuck in itself and a psyop in itself. I realized for me that like I'm constant, I'm looking and studying and delving into like who started what society, where did it come from?
Oh yeah, there's so many of them.
It is attached to this, and like after doing that for like years, I was like, well, you know what? I still don't know what the fuck magic is. I was like, all I'm doing is like chasing this person said this person started that. No, but then this person said this started that. This book says that they started then, but this book says they started somewhere. I was like, I'm never gonna I have to fucking go through so much crap.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. It's like you're intentionally misled. And that's kind of once you dive into it, you realize, oh shit, that's part of the deal. You're supposed to be intentionally misled for a while. If ever, if you ever are even supposed to get to the heart of the matter. Yeah. So
and in that whole time, I still, like I said, didn't actually know what magic like what is it? I'm just trying to chase like who's trying to put it out, but I still don't know what it is. So at one point I was like, well, maybe I could actually like start learning it myself.
Right.
And when I had that idea, I never had the intentions of being like a horrible person or thinking like, oh, I'm gonna fucking be a millionaire and I'm gonna be fucking famous. It was never really of that. It was because I believed that it was being used on us. I wanted to figure out a way to maneuver myself out of the
That's kind of where
bullshit.
I am. Yeah.
And
That's
just like
exactly kind of
let
where
me
I am.
just let me just
Yep.
be me, not have fucking restraints, just be happy. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? That could just be getting by. I could be happy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Like I'm not interested in like, I mean, I guess I'm interested in the, like, is it Satan? It worship? Is it evil? Like,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? But what I'm more interested in is knowing as much as I possibly can about every aspect of the belief system, because like you, I was raised in the church. My mom was a Sunday school teacher. I was baptized, confirmed. Like I lived in a Lutheran Protestant church in a small town in Southwest Minnesota. So I, from a young age, had a lot of those stories just drilled into my head. And then the older you get, I went out into the world and I lived in Southern California for a while and learned a lot about some other belief systems in California for
Oh
sure. And then that's when I started kind of being like, God, what is this esoteric hidden world that I keep hearing about? And then you start getting, like you said, to the conspiratorial stuff that you start seeing happening out in society. And then you find out that all these rich, wealthy, elitist families, all the way back to, pre Christian days, all the way back to the Sumerians, had some level of this going on behind the scenes. And so when you
yes, that's
find,
exactly what hit me
yeah,
was
so when
seeing that too.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, when you find out that it's ancient on that level, it starts making you wonder, wow, how much of everything I thought I knew about the world is complete and utter horseshit. And then and I've always been this curious person that I'm like, and courageous too. Like I'm like, I don't give a shit if anybody has a problem with what I'm gonna get into it. Like I'm gonna figure it out. So that's how I got into. I think I just got curious, and you start noticing
Yeah.
things, and then you start picking up some books, start doing a little reading, and um.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
even
so
as a child, before 9/11, I guess as a child, but like, I guess, I don't know, I just didn't look into it when we didn't have the internet then, or really,
right, right, it had to
But
be
like,
books.
even
Yeah.
even as a child, when I was young, I was always like, yo, there's something up with the fucking Egyptians. All that shit they
Oh
built, I
yeah.
was like, they knew something we don't know.
Yeah.
There was just something about that mesmerized me and told me like, there's like, in a kid sense, I was like, this secret knowledge. I don't know how. I'm probably
Yeah.
just thinking there's hidden shit in there. But like, I knew that there was something up with that and was always intrigued.
Dude, when I first heard that the 10 commandments came out of the Egyptian book of the dead, I was like, what the fuck, dude? I'm like, I need to learn, or allegedly, I don't know if that's really true, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've heard that before. I don't know. You got any thoughts on that kind of stuff about the Egyptian
That
aspect of things?
well, I'm still actually a little confused. I mean, they definitely, in my opinion, they understood the occult sciences for sure. Now,
Oh yeah. Yep.
how they, in my opinion, I unfortunately, I just think if these people even existed in the flesh, if they were actually here, if you're a human, unfortunately, you're I hate to use the word free will because I don't even think it's you're able to give up your will. Put it that way. You know what I'm
Oh
saying? And
yeah.
delve
Absolutely.
down into deeper shit. So as a
Yep.
human, you could be good or you could be bad. I do think, unfortunately, probably with the Egyptians, it was both. But like, I do believe it or not, I think those pyramids were actually meant for them to shoot their souls out or descend out into somewhere else.
Something like that. Oh
But
yeah.
then I'm sure that there was just so much shit with the Egyptians, and you even mentioned like the Book of the Dead and the Ten Commandments. Yeah, that is true. You can find that in there. I think you definitely can find things that tie back to each other. And then, like, even if you start looking at the commandments and, like, I guess, like, the words, like, before it was fucking translated 20 fucking times.
Right.
If you try to go back to older versions, you do even come up to words that kind of go along with, like, the Anunnaki. So now it's
Interesting.
like, did it even predate Egyptian and now you're going back to Sumerian, which I think they're all telling the same fucking
I
story.
think they are too. Yep. When you get into it, I think eventually you get to that realization that it's just intelligence building on intelligence, and the rewriting and the redistributing for a new group of people, a new country. you know, how just the Christian story of, you know, the virgin birth and December 25th and the 3 stars and the 3 days before the resurrection. And then you take that back to, you know, to Easter and Ishtar or whatever from back in
Oh
Egypt. Like
yeah.
when I started reading and learning about that, that's when I started realizing, like, you're right. Like every religion seems like it's built upon similar ideas and themes prior to that. And then when you throw on top of that the celestial aspect of it, how, you know, astrotheology and how they say some of the Bible verses are literally crafted representations of celestial
Oh
phenomenon.
yeah, I did that.
Oh man, that
There's
blew my mind.
tons of zodiac shit in the Bible that is told in like an archetype or some beautiful way. Believe it,
Absolutely, it is
I
beautiful.
will
It
say
is.
I think the Bible still is the most amazing, beautiful book ever written. It will tell you everything if you understand. You understand actually.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's I'm not saying it in a bad way either. I know sometimes when I say that, people, oh God, if they're Catholic or Christian, they hear me say there's occultism in the Bible, but it's not like it could be
You're not
occultism
supposed
because we forgot or somehow, like I said, you had the good and the bad. The bad people unfortunately made everybody else dumb to not understand the good book that was put out. That's
Yep.
not shitting on the Bible in a bad way. I'm trying to say it's actually
But that makes sense.
everything's in there.
That makes sense about, you know, the whole fall of man and how they fell into free will and into duality. That's the whole good and evil yin yang right there. It's like there's good and bad energies in all of us.
Yeah,
That's what duality in this dimension is, you know?
I
Makes
mean,
sense.
even when, if you look at the tree of life and the way it's set up, and if you understand like some of the things, like the sphere, the third sphere, which is interesting. You mentioned Easter in 3 days. I do, in my opinion, just my opinion.
Mhm.
I do think Jesus is actually an example. He's a gangster magician, and they're showing you that he crossed the abyss, which would be the third sphere, and then when he
Mhm.
came back from the abyss and was reborn here, we have Easter. But
Interesting, yeah.
yeah, besides all that, because Ishtar, like you said, can be associated with the underworld in a sense. Now, I do think that technically, I put it this way: we have gravity, right? We can't go any farther. We're already stuck here. You go to jump, you come down. My
Right.
opinion, we might actually kind of be in hell, in my opinion, and in the flesh, and
Thought that before.
the
Yeah.
feminine and the divine energy is used to it's used as a symbol or an archetype of keeping things in form. If it wasn't for
Mm.
the feminine energy, I would not be in my skin right now. I'd be spread out, just fucking like, floating
Yeah.
around a body of a mess. The
Interesting, yeah.
feminine energy is what keeps you in form. So when he comes back, it could be associated with Ishtar because now his spirit has been rebirthed into the flesh again,
Hmm.
back into the underworld.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right.
So, so
Makes sense, yeah.
yeah, I forgot
All that stuff's
exactly.
super fascinating, yeah.
I forgot exactly where I started off with that. Oh, okay. So on the tree of life, yeah, even the number three, it does have a kind of like a go between where it does let you going up the tree, you're escaping the flesh prison, but coming back down, you're kind of going back into the flesh prison. So I forgot exactly where I was going with,
Oh,
with
no,
that,
that's
but
it.
then
No, that I love that we got to we brought up the abyss because especially with regard to the OTO. So let's dive into OTO real quick. So
oh yeah, I
let,
forgot to even explain that
yeah,
whole
so let's
situation.
let's let's
Sorry.
start let's start off with your experience with that, and then I want to move into Jack Parsons and H.W. Bush crossing
Okay.
the abyss and anointing themselves as the Antichrist and Magog. So I definitely
Okay.
want to talk to you
All
about
right.
that. So let's start off with your experience though, man. Like what is the process like to even join a group like that if you were interested in becoming a member? I mean, most people have no
Right.
idea how that process even goes, you know?
Yo, the funny thing is too is that when I get into it and when I found out how easy it was, I was like, "What the?" Like I always almost like this is too
Really?
good to be
Wow.
true. Oh yeah, and
Huh.
real quick, so we don't forget, you mentioned Bush before. Bring back 9/11 because I can tie that to fucking Aleister Crowley shit easily.
Perfect. Oh,
So
I love
yeah,
that. Yeah.
so all right. I eventually started getting into practicing magic. I started like checking out books. I was checking out books from, and I will say I joined the OTO not as a first choice.
Hmm.
I would have probably preferred going to the Golden Dawn, or that's actually what I was looking for, and there was none near me. That's much more of a magical school for sure. You know, they're a little bit more stringent, I think, or a little bit more to just together, you know, and it's
Gotcha.
also much more expensive not to join, but to have all your little fucking fucking ridiculous outfits. You got to make your own shit.
Oh,
And then
wow.
if you don't want to make it and you don't want to buy it from somebody, it's fucking ridiculous prices.
Hmm.
So like, I was just like, yo, like this, I'm not looking to fucking blow money like that. And there was an OTO lodge fucking like 25 minutes away from me. So I was like, I guess the OTO is it.
Convenience. There it is.
Yeah, because I do. I'll say this, and as I'm saying this, please, I don't want people to think I'm sticking up for the man, because by the time I'm done saying what I'm done saying, I still think he was a fucking degenerate, or ended up a degenerate fucking drug addict. Crowley, I do think
Gotcha.
he was an occult genius. He was an occult genius, and even in a lot of his fucked up, some of his perverted, stupid shit, and a lot of his scarlet whore idea, and a lot of his sexual shit is none of that actually. A
Hmm.
lot of it is him actually trying to explain, like literally almost like astrotheology, but in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then people will be like, oh, that's sex, or oh, that's vulgar language. I can't look at that. That's evil. He knew what the fuck he was doing. He's
Right.
like, people who only are searching for the fucking truth are going to read this shit, because they're going to look behind that and actually look at what you're reading, visualize what you're reading, visualize what's happening, and you will see that represented in other occult stories. And then you're like, holy fuck, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But he was, I think, a genius at that. But at the same point, I still think he was just a fucked up dude.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. When I first started off, I was kind of like more Golden Dawn based, but I did like kind of have respect for actual cult knowledge. I did look into a lot of Crowley stuff, his Liber, you know, all his books and shit. And
The
then, like I
Lima.
said, I ended
Yeah.
up looking, started watching, bought books to practice. I had talked to a couple of people that contacted a girl that I knew that I went to school with, that I was friends on Facebook, that I had mentioned I knew was a witch growing up, and I had even asked her, "Hey, you still practicing?" And she said
Chat.
yes. And I said, "Yo," I said, I'm starting to, like, you know, I'm like reading stuff. I really want to get into it." And when I told her about the Golden Dawn and Crowley, she said, "All right." She's like, "I'm going to be honest with you. You're not going to be really much into witchcraft if that is what you're looking at." She's like, "You're going to be looking at more of ceremonial magician." And she's like, "Isis, you know," she's like, "check out these names in these books." She's like, I think they're solid people for ceremonial magic." Because I kind of wanted something, and not knocking witches or witchcraft. It's just that it's the woo woo, and it happens in ceremonial magic too, just as bad. It's just that witchcraft or Wicca just is even more fucking ridiculous.
Gotcha. Okay.
And believe it or not, real quick, Wicca came from Gerald Gardner, who was a student of Aleister Crowley and was even given permission to open up a lodge for the OTO.
Oh,
Just
wow.
want to toss that in there real quick. So,
Nice.
in
Wow.
my opinion, just like people in the OTO used to say, Wicca is just the Lima light. That's all it is. And that's PSYOP in itself. But so yeah, so I started getting into ceremonial magic books, and they all still need to go back to Quote and Crowley, Golden Dawn type stuff. So I was like, all right, let me start fucking looking for shit on YouTube. I came across a very, and this is another thing I'll get into. I do think, from my experience, just from the few places either I've been to or watched other lodges, in my opinion, it's a leftist breeding tank. And I came across, I think it's called Blazing Star Oasis or Blazing Star OTO on YouTube. That is a perfect example, because they have plenty of videos out. I'm not saying to go watch their videos to learn stuff. Just go watch their videos and see some of the people presenting the shit, and see who's in the fucking crowd, and you will see it's a fucking liberal breeding ground. You'll definitely
That does
go
not
check that.
surprise me.
And it's in Cali. What a surprise! No,
Yeah. Oh, California. Oh, yeah.
yeah. And actually, I think that might have kind of replaced Parsons Lodge. I don't know if it's still open. I might be wrong with that. That might have closed. I can't remember. But so yeah, so I started watching them a lot, because they did have good tutorials on actual rituals, like the hexagram, the list of banishing ritual, the pentagram. Liber-Resh was all stuff that, like, Liber-Resh and the pentagram I was already kind of practicing, and I just, you're always questioning yourself. Am I not saying it the right way? Am I not moving in the right way? So I watched a lot of videos because I actually wanted to see how it was done besides reading the book.
Yeah, because don't they say you're supposed to do the when it comes to rituals, you want to do it exactly the right way because you're re-engaging whatever the morphogenetic energy of anyone who's ever done it before you. So you want to get it pretty exactly right on. Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah,
It's
I would
interesting.
say, I mean, this is the thing. I and we'll get into this, later on. I have experienced much more intense magical stuff just meditating.
Hmm.
Casting all those circles and doing all that shit, in my experience, I know now is not needed. And me and Lux, my partner in crime, my co-host on the Cult Rejects, we've even said, and this is another reason why I even stopped practicing. How do I know these rituals are even putting me in the fucking kind of space that I really want to be in?
Right.
But like honestly, if people do come across this and you're still practicing, you're gonna still keep practicing. Please make sure you know exactly what the fuck you're doing and making sure you're doing it right.
Oh, I would imagine.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I was that anal, like I wanted to make sure, like I'm not screwing anything up. So I watched a lot of, like, I guess, videos or tutorials, kind of. And like I said, I watched a lot of their stuff, even though I was like, these motherfuckers are kind of weird. So I watched their stuff and it hit them up, I think, like on an email, or I might have even like I somehow hit them up on fucking YouTube. Somehow I got in contact with them. And I was like, I was like, I'd really be interested in maybe kind of like getting into the OTO, or I was like, I don't know how this shit works. Do you get a mentor? Is there a place that you go? Like
Yeah.
you have, like any information would be great. And they were like, where are you located? And I said, New York. And they're like, just go on the OTO site. I was like, they show you the states and where they are. And I was like, what? Really? Like,
It's
and
that
like
simple.
if you were like to Google like OTO USA, I mean, you'll probably get their fucking site pop up. It'll be OTO.org or whatever USA is, some shit like that.
Right.
Like it's really not hard. Like if I was to have actually like instead of contacting them and just typing in OTO lodges, I'm sure I would have came across it myself. I mean, it's legit that fucking easy.
Wow.
So they have a website and it shows where all their lodges are. And a fuck ton of these lodges all have some sort of social media too. I mean, a lot of them have Facebook, and I wouldn't say a group, but like a thing where they post like stuff going on.
Right.
They all almost all of them all have that. So when I got to the site, it showed like I found the one, and I was like, holy fuck, this is like literally like 20 minutes away. So then that's when I was like, I guess this is the answer because the Golden Dawn is like nowhere around here, or not like an official one. This is like kind of like one that's not on the books and in someone's house. I'm like, yeah, I'm good on that.
Yeah.
So I find this, and it lists, like I was saying, it will list all their social media too. Any ways to get in contact with them. I think I went to their Facebook or something and like saw that they had a calendar up of events. And I had heard of the Gnostic Mass before, and I was like, I think I like went on YouTube and typed it in. And I was like, oh, all right, I can actually find one and watch it. So I figured, fuck it, I'll go to that so I know what I'm expecting. It's kind of like church, in my opinion. It's kind of like church for them. I think it shows man being born and crossing the abyss and coming back with knowledge. I think that's basically what they're getting at with that. So I figured it was a safe thing. Then when I watched it on YouTube, all the people, unless they're in the Gnostic Mass, you're basically just sitting on the sides watching it. You're not really doing much. So I figured that this is safe. Not bad. So I hit them up and told them I'd be interested in coming to like the Gnostic Mass. That was like at whatever date, and they said sure, not a problem. When it gets close, just hit us up, and we'll give you the contact information. Well, we'll give you the information of like where we're located.
Wow. It was just that simple, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
so then I still thought it was like a little weird with the whole like, well, hit us up later on. Like they didn't want to tell me where the lodge was yet,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess I understand that. So yeah, when it came time, I think a day beforehand, I had hit them up again, told them I was interested in coming, and they replied and they, told me did they tell me the address? Yeah, they had to tell me. Yeah, they told me where to go. And the one thing that weirded me out though, and it kind of gives it away, but like I really don't give a fuck. I'm not saying the name of the place.
Right.
They kind of like told you like, well, there was a park across the street. This is in Queens. And they were saying like there's benches by the park. Go sit across the street from the building on the benches.
They wanted to watch you. They wanted to check you out
Well,
before you got there.
well, that, and the thing was, it was in like in a basement, like an apartment of an apartment building.
Oh, it was.
So like I guess like, and the thing is, it was kind of, I guess, like technically a private place. You could only get in unless you had a key for the gate, which I found,
Okay.
which is kind of another. It's like, is that like the Matrix working in itself, or was like that something done on purpose? That you need the keys, just like the archetype Janus. You need the keys to open up that gate or that swinging door to cross.
Right.
But so I was like, all right, this is like a little fucking weird, but like I'm like, all right, I guess I'll deal with it. I'll go. And then when I got there, it actually made a lot more sense, because then I had realized there was a bunch of people hanging out, smoking cigarettes and, chilling, sitting on the benches. And when I saw the address, I realized, oh, you can't get in unless you have a key for the gate. So then I started feeling a little bit more comfortable, because at first I was like, this is actually getting weird. I might actually puss out, So then I eventually somebody comes out and they're like, oh, everybody who's here for the Gnostic Mass, so I'll let people in. So I was like, I'm not going in by myself, There was a few normal looking people there, so I felt okay. I went in, waited there, more people showed up, and then eventually they kind of like let you know what the Gnostic Mass is about. They do let you know there is a couple of things that you do have to do.
Is it like a church service kind of thing, or like what does that entail? Gnostic Mass.
Yeah, well, first you going in at the temple, and like, I guess, I don't know, say a waiting room or the hangout room, or like even the room where you can eat after rituals and things that they do, special things they do. They'll have food after. You kind of hang out in that one room. You gotta take off your shoes. You cannot wear your shoes in the fucking temple. More people show up. And then eventually, like I said, for the Gnostic Mass, they'll come out. They'll kind of give people an idea, especially if because in case new people come in, they're not going to know what's going on. They even give you like a little pamphlet that shows you like, well, at this time, people will get on their knees and you'll stay like this while they're saying certain things. At the end, when you take the fucking, I'll get into it. You will go like this. Just letting you know certain things, so like you're not taken off guard and you kind of just go with the motions, I guess. Whatever.
Interesting.
So they let you know about that. They kind of give you that little explanation, and then they let everybody in. And the priestess will come out with two people and kind of like do her thing, and then the priest comes out as like almost like a tomb-looking thing with a curtain. And then the whole thing starts up. But like I said, in my opinion, it is showing, like, I think the male energy rising and going through the abyss, because like even the altar at one point. And this kind of threw me off, because on YouTube, now on Vimeo, I think you can find it. David Shoemaker has a version of the Gnostic Mass that is actually what it will look like.
Okay.
On YouTube,
I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
On YouTube, if you watch, it was Wasserman something, the feast, whatever. That, I guess, because it's on YouTube, it's censored. There was no nudity. So I wasn't expecting that. But there is a point where the priest puts the priestess up on the altar. They say a few things. She closes the curtain. He does his stuff. And then when he reopens it up, well, she's no longer dressed anymore. So that happened. And I was like, oh. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, I didn't see this shit. and I was like, I don't want to stare,
caught off guard,
because then it looks like I'm a fucking creep, and I'm like, I really don't care to look at her anyway like that. So all sorts of things were just going through my mind, and then I'm like, if anything else fucking happens after this, I'm literally walking the fuck out. I'm thinking like, oh my god, here comes Eyes Wide Open, Eyes Wide Shut. I was like, oh my, I'm like literally looking around, and I'm like, how the fuck did I put myself?
Wow, that's crazy.
But then it really didn't get any worse than that, and so they, at the end, you will eventually they have these things called cakes of light. That is, I guess, the same thing as if you go to church and get the wafer, you will get a cake of light.
Oh, okay.
So you'll get a little thing, a little shot of wine, or if you don't drink wine, they have grape juice for you. You'll drink that, and then you say, there's no part of me that is not of the gods. You'll cross your hands like that, and you'll go and walk around and sit back down where you were. Then everybody does that. The priest says a few things. They go back inside that little. Everybody goes back inside that tomb that he came out of, and then it's over.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So man, so do you think it's I guess for lack of a better word, the inverse of like the God Christian whatever energy? Like is it really based on
Ooh.
Satan worship, or is it just a different scientific, maybe religion, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, that is esoteric, hidden? It's not supposed to be known and public and upfront, although it deals with a lot of the same things that you would deal with in a church. Like you said, the mass is similar with the wafer and the wine and
Oh
eating,
yeah.
eating of the flesh and the blood of Christ. I mean, the crossover is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you like? When people say it's just all Satan worship, do you believe that, or is it maybe partially? Is there a part of it
Yeah.
that
No.
that
There. I'm the way I'm going to explain it. I think will be the partial. And
okay,
again, I'll go back to. Well, this is probably. I'm hoping it's the difference between the two at least. I do believe, like I said before, I think everything is there in the Bible. You can find, the answers to everything is in there, or at least a way for you to find your own answers, or
right?
all in there.
I can see that. Yeah.
Now, again, I do think that it was probably put out in a positive way. In my opinion, now the OTO, same thing. That Gnostic Mass is showing you fucking everything.
Right.
A lot of that stuff, like again, even with Crowley, if you don't want to be a heathen and look at things as the ways you'd like to think it's supposed to be being said and try to just picture in your mind or somehow twist it in a spiritual aspect or an archetype, you will see like some real deep explained shit.
Hmm.
Just my opinion though with the OTO, and this is the problem with why I left after I started having magical
Yeah.
experiences, is that I do think this is even like the media. We're going to tell you the truth in little drops of truth here and there, but we're going to cover it and smear with a bunch of bullshit so you misunderstand it.
For
I
sure.
think the same thing with the OTO. They are going to show you everything. They're going to show you all the secrets, all the symbols, but
Hmm.
they're going to have you thinking it's something else. And at that point, in my opinion, it becomes satanic because now this information is not being used for you to have an experience with God. It's being
Ah,
used to keep you away from God because
interesting.
you are being told to look at it the wrong way.
That's fascinating because that reminds me a lot about the 33 degrees and the free Masonic lodges and stuff. I actually have a few friends from school, from high school that I grew up with that are, lower level Masons. They go to the lodge meetings and they think that, it's a Christian organization for lack of a better word, because, you know, Jimmy from the Presbyterian church down the street that he goes to, and, Johnny from the Methodist church goes, and it's like, oh, you guys are all Christian people. And oh, we're going to our lodge meeting. We're going, but then you hear the stories of once you get up to those higher degrees and the penalties for revealing certain information get worse and worse and worse, allegedly more severe, whatever. That's when that's interesting that you say it like that, because I heard a guy once describe it as the Freemasons are a large organization, a large brotherhood, but within the brotherhood, there is a small group that hides a deeper connection between those members, and
For
you're in
sure.
and you're
Sure.
intentionally misled, and you have to be chosen through whatever protocols and you know things that you have to accomplish, goals you have to accomplish and reach to get there. So that's really fascinating. It reminds me of fraternities. It reminds
Oh
me
yeah. Well, it's a
reminds me of the
fraternal order.
Exactly. And it reminds me of the military too. I was in the military. I'm a Navy veteran. So I mean, you talking about, you know, seaman recruit, seaman, petty officer, third class, second class. Now you're a chief. Now you're a senior chief. It's like, and all that secret information when you have security clearances in the military too is all compartmentalized. You're not supposed to know everything under the clearance. You're just whatever your little cookie cutter need to know job is. That's all you need to know. And it's just very interesting how every organization that has secret knowledge is set up compartmentalized like that, to where you're not
Yeah.
supposed to get it all right away. You got to earn
Yeah.
the levels as you move up the chain. So
and I think
fascinating.
that's used like kind of in multiple ways. Real quick, and then and I don't want to try not to forget both things I wanted to say. One, you mentioned about the Masons.
Mhm.
I had a friend who was a Mason, and he at one point he was in the OTO with me. He finally left. Actually, I might get him on my show. He stopped drinking the Kool Aid, and he was like, "Yo, you're right. I'm fucking finally fucking left." He's
Wow.
like, I couldn't
Mm.
do it anymore." He left, and but at one point while he was there, I had when you start moving up, they kind of want you to kind of like start doing things. So like I got involved in the Gnostic Mass, and I figured,
Mhm.
I had a small role.
Participating. Yep.
Yeah, I had a small role. Like I didn't even have to say anything. I just fucking walked around with either incense and the fucking burner or water and salt. I
Right.
didn't do anything. And when it came time to open the curtain, my back was to the priestess, so that was even better. So so like I thought this out.
You don't want to see it, yeah.
Yeah, I thought this shit out.
So it wasn't a looker. She wasn't a looker, is what you're
Yeah,
saying?
I would say about 95% of them aren't, and same
Oh,
thing with
okay.
the dudes too. Same thing with the dudes. And the
Interesting.
fact
Okay.
of even finding a heterosexual person there is even fucking amazing to begin with. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So there is some
That's
crossover with that too, with
oh
the
yeah, yeah. We'll get into that. I
wow.
don't want to forget where I was going with
Oh
this
yeah, go
first.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. So the thing was with him, he would now. So I would also like I did a class once. He did a few classes, and he did a class on the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, and I was like, yo, that was a fucking amazing class. You did really well. I was like, yo, have you ever? I was like, you should fucking see if you can do that at the Masons too. And he was like, dude, he's like, if I fucking brought this to them and was trying to tell them about doing this, he's like, they'd probably be like, yo, you can't get the fuck out of here with that crap. So
Wow.
that's what they
Hmm.
told him. That's what they told him. I shit you not. About a year later, maybe a little bit more, this kid skipped a couple of degrees. He told me, "Yo, you never believe it. I actually just did that class at the fucking Masons." So I was like, "Yeah,
What?
there you go." Because you moved up and you moved over into certain specific things. Now all of a sudden, those people are into it, but not when you were a few degrees down in something else. Oh no, 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 no. We can't talk about that. That shit's nuts.
Wow. That's fascinating. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it's almost yeah. Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
even think in a sense. And I definitely think this shit works in the OTO for people, and that's more because I do think, like I said before, unfortunately, I do think it is much more of a liberal-minded place, and just you
Mm.
get a lot more liberals there. I mean, Crowley, he was bisexual, so already like you're just already attracting like shit, like sexual deviancy, you know.
Yeah.
But going up in the ranks, one in the Masons, I still think even as you're going up, like if you start joining orders, if you get into the Shriners, Quetzalcoatl's, and Jesters, I even think because the Jesters and Quetzalcoatl are invitation only, you may not still have to actually know or have any occult knowledge. You just have to be of worth. And then they will
Mm.
tap your shoulder, ask you to join, and they will manipulate you and use you. Like the Jesters, we covered the Jesters. They have, and I showed Pacer court documents. It's not a lie. They have been busted for fucking child trafficking. And like
Oh
any of the
wow.
people that we covered with that shit, judges, lawyers, tax people, cops.
100%. Oh, you hear stories
And
about that all the time.
when that's an inner order that you can only be asked to join, it sure sounds like you're asking specific type of people in there when they're
Yeah.
all like that. These are all people that are in the position to fucking wash the other guy's ass when he gets in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm. Oh
and
yeah.
now with the OTO, in my opinion, and this is another part of the psyop, even with the degrees, people start thinking they're the shit. They
That's what I
start
was
thinking, oh,
thinking too.
I
The
know
ego
more than
part.
the next.
Yep.
The
Oh yeah.
ego comes in,
We're all
and
still human, right?
yes, and when it comes to astrology, if you start looking at astrology and the Kabbalah and trying to mix the two, I would really hope that people would start realizing that there's vices and then there's virtues in the Kabbalah. The things that are holding you down, and then the things or the experience you have moving on.
Right.
Sometimes these symbols, like Leo, that goes with the sun, that may possibly be the vice because he's very lion can be very prideful,
Hmm.
have a lot of ego.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a lot of ego, you're not going up the tree.
Right.
So all you're doing, really, in my opinion, for some people, because they'll take it that way, all these, I'm a second degree, I'm a third degree, I'm fucking this, I'm fucking that.
Right.
It's just inflating your ego to make sure you don't fucking go to the abyss. You're going to
Huh.
get stopped, at least at the sun. You're going to get stopped in the middle of the tree because your ego is too much. You're not going anywhere. You will never cross because you're too much into, your ego and
Yeah. The
all that
energy, the
bullshit.
frequency and the energy is not in the right spot. Yeah.
Yes,
I get that.
exactly,
I get
exactly.
that.
So
Wow.
I even think all that shit in itself is all like some psychodrama to still stop you from really understanding what's going on.
See, it's like so funny. It's like everybody that tries to figure it out has this such similar explanations. It's like there's groups within groups within groups within groups, and you're just not gonna know everything without years and years and years of research. And even after all the years of research, you probably still aren't gonna know everything, you know?
I mean, even like, all right, with the OTO, they have Counting Minerva, which is like an honored guest that lets you start going to close the meetings,
Hmm,
but you are not a total member. And
hmm.
so, counting that, you have 13 degrees at, fuck, I can't believe because it's been a while. Either the fifth, I think it's the fifth, yes. The first, Minerval, first, second, third, and fourth degree, they all have time limits on them, but you can ask to join. You can ask. I can ask to go from Minerva to first, first to second, second to third, third to fourth. But there might be like a 9 month, a year, or a year and a half waiting time that you have to at least wait before you can ask or have.
Jeez, that's so
So,
crazy. There's every God,
so you have
so
that,
much
but then
shit.
after the fourth degree, the fifth is invitation only going up. So
See, that's
so
yeah.
now you want to explain to me what happens after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then if you look at it, they have add-ons. There's like different things going into different ideas. And if the fourth degree is already a perfected magician, like, well, then what's all that rest? Like, what's the rest? If you're already
Mm,
a magician, what the fuck is everything else? And
yeah,
I do
wow.
think it's neither. This is my thing with the OTO too. Like I said before, and I think all major secret societies are like this. There is the psyop within it. Like I said, they will all show you the truth, but then they paint it in a color that you take it wrong. And I do think they will kind of start to create slaves. So, like, I do
Mm,
think you can either, if you're going up those things, either you're a guinea pig on what they're at that point. I think that you're kind of fitting an agenda of what they're into. What is this society looking to do? What is their means, or not means, but like what are they doing? Like, what are they really
right.
doing? What are
Right.
they trying to put out there? Because at that point now you're a magician. So,
Do they
like,
do, do they give you pushback for asking? Like if you get too inquisitive, they're like, "No, you're not
oh,
ready
hell yeah.
yet. Shut up." They're like, "You're not jumping ahead. You got all in due time." That kind of thing.
Yo, there was one time, and this shows you how fucking retarded people are. If you go on the OTO site, their own site, like, it lists the differences of lodges, camps, and oases.
Oh wow.
It
See, I
will
gotta go
tell
check the
you,
site out just to look. Yeah, wow.
yeah, because like an oasis is like, or a camp. I might be fucking out, whichever. I think the oasis is like the lowest one, or the camp might be. You camp, oasis, and then a lodge. So like there's different, as you're going up to the lodge, or as you're going up in these things, you need to have people that are higher degrees, and just there's just certain things that need to be done in order to be able to even consider yourself something.
Mm,
Instead of an oasis and you go to a lodge, you got to have everything certain ways. And there was a lot of information on that and explaining that on the OTO site. I remember one time, like, I think waiting before like a Gnostic mass, people were talking about something kind of like along that area. And I was like, yeah, I was like, well, don't you need like a certain amount of like people at this and that in order to like move up? And like one of like the fifth degree that I know of, that was at least a fifth degree chick there, was
mhm.
like, oh, well, I guess that's just some of the mystery of the mysteries. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, bitch, it's on the fucking website. Like, this isn't a secret or a mystery. I'm just forgot the information you guys
Yeah.
literally put out.
So the fallible humans are still taking that information in and interpreting it in completely different ways.
I
Like
was,
not
or,
everybody's
or, or people
smart.
are just a fucking parrot and just say
Yeah.
shit.
It's like going to that's how a lot of religious people that go to church are too. It's like you're not really thinking deeply about the concepts. You're just following the
Yeah.
leader, going through the motions. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, and like it was constant. Like it was like a. I remember one time I think I said to somebody, like, it was almost like a bad AA meeting. Like, they all have their little phrases that they say. They always like, oh, 93, 93 when they say hi, or do it thou will, or if it's your will, would you like to come into the temple right now? And then, like, after like I experienced magic, I was like, yo, these motherfuckers don't even know their will. So why are you even asking them what their will is? They don't even know it.
Wow.
It's just like you start realizing
Jeez.
how like phrases just get tossed around because it
Yeah.
just sounds fucking cool, and it's like I'm a part of the clique if I fucking use their lingo.
So with that, I mean, on that line of thinking, then when you decided to leave, is it a situation where you get pushback and threats kind of thing? Like, don't reveal anything or else we'll come cut your fucking tongue out or whatever the shit is,
When
Some
you
people say.
do the initiations, yeah, they have like their deep or archaic or very occult ways of
Right.
making threats. I even myself have wondered, like, to be totally honest with you, like, again, like I said, sometimes I don't even think you know your will until you experience magic.
Interesting.
Odds are, like, are those people like it? I could see it how saying like I wasn't even in control of my own will, so now this stuff doesn't even apply to me because you weren't really speaking, in a way. But like even the way that they say it, I mean, I don't remember the verbatim, but kind of thinking back and looking back at certain things that were said, in my opinion, I've even questioned like, were those even real threats anyway? Because like,
Hmm.
I don't know, but for me, luckily, I mean, I never made it. I never got to the point to where you had to be, asked to move up.
Right. Right.
I'm sure there would be a difference with that. I'm sure,
Oh, I would
I don't
imagine.
know how extreme, but I'm sure there'd be a difference in my situation. I really, and the perfect thing too is that it happened around right when COVID happened. I had already stopped going for a while, probably 6 months, maybe even longer. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't going. I didn't want to be associated with them anymore, really. But I was just like, "Ah, fuck it," like I just won't go anymore because
Right.
like that's people. A lot of people do that. Just stop going. Uh, and then when they did COVID, they started. Well, one when COVID happened, they bended the knee to the CDC right away.
Oh,
And they like actually went by their guidelines and everything. So I was just like, so I'm looking at this and
we're gonna follow the rules.
fucking church is open, Jesus is out there, but Horace is afraid. Like, come
Wow.
on, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what the?
Yeah.
I
What kind
thought
of
Horace was
message
a
are you
gangster.
sending here, people? Yeah, right.
He's afraid of COVID. Like, but the churches are open. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh boy.
So, I thought that was just like another perfect example. I was like, thank God I left.
Wow.
So they started doing a lot of Zoom shit, and there was some interesting things going on, and I was like, you know what? I'll check it out because all I have to do technically is just I don't even have to put on a camera. You don't have to show yourself. I just got to join the Zoom meeting, put headphones in, and I could walk around the house, do whatever I'm doing, sit on the couch, smoke a joint,
Right.
whatever. As long as I got
Listen.
my
Yeah.
mic off and they don't hear me, I'm just listening to what's going on.
Yeah.
So I was like, fucking, I'll do a couple of those because like I almost felt bad. I literally was almost like feeling bad. Maybe I need to show face.
It reminds
Uh,
me of my mom telling me, "Get up! It's time to go to church, Andrew." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to go today, Mom. God."
Yeah, it was exactly like that. It was
Yeah.
exactly like that. There was
Wow.
even a few times I remember I was like, "Fuck it," I was gonna smoke a joint, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? They're doing that thing later. I'll hold off. I'll just smoke a joint, lay on the couch, and just get stoned out and listen." Like, I'm fucking thinking about something else. I'm not even listening. It's just my
Right.
name's on the fucking screen, and it shows up
Right.
that I was there.
Huh.
So I did a few of those things. They did a couple of they did like a lot of readings. Yeah, I listened to that, and I think they did I think, on my opinion, if I'm correct, I think the Book of the Law that took again 3 days to write. Crowley Channel, and the thing is, another thing with magic, and it's so funny how like it didn't even click in my head, I guess, until I started doing stuff on the Occult Rejects and covering cults.
Right.
I was like, it's kind of funny. It's always like a cult is always somebody who's like, oh, I channeled this fucking thing and it told me someone was speaking to me and you all have to listen and do this.
That
I was
sounds
like,
like ego to me too.
I was
Too
like,
much
yo, that's
ego.
exactly what the fucking this book is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that
Yeah.
book is. Is Crowley channeling something for 3 fucking days and then telling you, oh yeah, this is the law,
This
the
is
book
how
of
it
the
is.
law.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Jeez.
each one of those days in the OTO, they do a ritual for each one of
Right.
those things. So I think they did that, and I listened in. And then I think after that, this is what totally got me to stop. And then I was when I went there, I'll be totally honest with you, there was like a handful of people that I actually like really fucked with, had their numbers and talked to.
Yeah.
And really some of them were just because like they were the least creepy, and I do actually believe were very intelligent people when
Mhm.
it came to at least
The least
the
creepy.
yeah. And then there were a few, because at the time I was very much more leaning right. Now I'm just like kind of in the middle, like fuck everybody. But
Right.
there were
Right.
a few dudes that were on the right. You could just tell, and like you get common conversations. You start exchanging numbers, and then when they start sending you meme shit on the left, you kind of like, okay, I know these are all right. These people are
Ah,
cool. So I,
yeah.
you know, so like I fucked with them, but it was still a very small handful. But like, yo, when I first got there, I even told myself, like, I was like, I don't think this is going to be a permanent thing,
The
because
thing. Yeah.
honestly, it's filled with a lot of people that one I normally would not even hang out with. And I was a Long Island boy. I eventually
Yeah.
moved into Queens. That was even a shock for me. I remember a few
Wow.
days after living in Queens, I'm calling up my wife and asking her, like, yo, what's the deal with people walking around with fucking doctor's masks on? I was like, is this something I need to know about? And she's like, no,
Right.
it's just the Asians. They love their doctor masks because they think they're going to die from the air. So, like, and real
Wow.
quick, just to tell you, that shit was going on in New York way before Corona.
Oh yeah. Oh
For
yeah.
years prior, we had people from other countries that are probably being fucking indoctrinated into crazy shit
Oh yeah. Especially in
coming
China, you
over
see it all
here
the time.
already wearing masks, and
Yeah.
kids wearing masks with Pikachu and Japanese.
Yep. Yep.
So like it wasn't a total shocker when everybody was wearing one in
Right.
COVID. But so fuck, I forgot where I was going. But yeah, they ended up so like yeah, I had already realized like this place just to me didn't seem normal. Like these people just weren't the type of people I'd hang out with. And then I guess as I started kind of like paying attention and getting a little bit more into politics at a point, I was like, oh, these people are just liberals, fascists, and communists.
Interesting.
And then
Yeah.
I even started noticing on some people's like social media, like they were even like part of their shit was even stating they were socialists or communists.
Hmm.
So then I started realizing, like, wow, I got some like fucking like far left idea people in here.
That's
So I already was just like this. I just know, like, I
not your
can't
thing.
fake it forever.
Well,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
And that reminds me, it's so what I'm gathering from everything you're saying is like you almost it becomes a personal quest, just like if you decided to be deep into Christianity and deep into researching and studying the Bible. You have to study it and do the research for yourself and find your own
Oh,
understanding rather than listen to all the knuckleheads in the group that are trying to tell you how it's supposed to be and how they
even
interpret
even
it.
even
Yeah.
the order. I mean, I don't know what other orders say, but like even from other people that I've known that have practiced stuff, and even in the OTO, they always say that magic happens at home or when you're doing it personally.
Yep. Interesting.
But
Hmm.
to get back to like what really got me to leave is
Yeah.
that so eventually they sent out the George Floyd shit happened.
Mhm.
George Floyd happened, and of course that shit was
Yeah, I'm
all
in
over
Minneapolis, man.
TV.
I was front row for that whole
Mhm.
situation. I live in Minneapolis. I saw all that shit go down. Yep.
So we get an email, or they send out a mass email
Mhm.
about the whole George Floyd thing, and that they were going to have like they're going to have a Zoom meeting, and if people will like to come and talk, about how they're
Oh, we're
affected,
getting
and
woke. They're going woke now.
oh yeah,
Oh boy.
oh yeah, I saw that shit, and I'm reading it, and I was like, yo, this is some kumbaya group therapy shit.
Wow, that's fucking crazy,
And
dude.
now at this
Wow.
at this point now in my magical career, I've already had my opinion. I've experienced magic. I've crossed the abyss. I've shut off the bullshit and had I've listened to God for a few
Right.
seconds.
Right. Yeah.
um, and I just realized I was like, if you're a magician, and when I say this, for people listening, please, like, this isn't as bad as it sounds, but I just want to make a good
Right.
example. What happened to him did not stop me from doing a podcast and talking to you. It did not stop me from eating dinner that night. It did
Right.
not stop me from being with my wife. It didn't stop me from doing anything.
Right.
I didn't know the guy. That guy was not in charge of keeping me breathing and leaving and fed. like in all actuality, as a magician, yes, I could say if that situation was even real, if it was even the way it was presented to us, yes, it's fucked up. But at the end of the day, it's done and over with. It wasn't me. I have to let that go. Keep being me. Keep doing me. Keep doing my will.
Right.
And all of a sudden, so all of a sudden they start like pushing some like crazy shit. Like now all of a sudden people going around in circles talking about times that they've, experienced racism and this and that. And I'm just
boy.
I'm like, yo, I was just like, yo, as a fucking magician, like, why is this guy's death have you so fucked up? We have to have a meeting for this?
It's like the indoctrination campaign on every front: education, religion.
So and if that wasn't,
wow.
Oh shit! You know what? Hold up 1 second, my man. I totally forgot to plug in my comp. I am so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. All right. NY Patriots taking a break to deal with something. I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation as much as I am. Fascinating stuff. For those that don't know, Jack Parsons was I'm going to get into Jack Parsons here in a minute. But he was a member of the OTO. Apparently he was a rocket scientist, and he anointed himself as the Antichrist at some point in time. I'm going to ask Patriot about that here in just a sec. Are you back, man?
Yeah, sorry, I had to go get my.
I was kind of filling the air with time real quick. I wanted to talk about Jack Parsons and.
But real quick, I have.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
This is what really sealed the deal. I mean, it was already done and over with, but I was just like, after this, never again, and that was it. So at the end of it, we had somebody, of course, always somebody that I had, kind of looked up to. And you know what the crazy thing is that Crowley himself in his book says, I'm not the dude. Don't put me on a pedestal. Okay. But yet these orders love doing it. And I even did it myself. But so somebody who was higher up and a lawyer, that's another thing. Lawyers, doctors, teachers, people involved in immigration rights, all sorts of shit. People, your everyday person that looks like they have their shit together or in these things. You cannot tell just by the way someone dresses and acts.
Yeah, I can see
that. I just want to make that real clear.
Okay.
But so a guy who was a lawyer, higher up, starts running his mouth out of nowhere when everybody was done talking. If Antifa gets labeled as domestic terrorists, our Constitution has just went out the window. We cannot allow that to happen. They start going on about Antifa. They start going on about BLM. And then they start asking, are any of us interested in maybe possibly setting up protests or getting together to go out and protest?
Oh, boy.
And I was like, I'm done. You totally put the nail in the coffin. This is a leftist breeding fucking ground.
Wow.
I knew it.
Wow.
And after that was it. After that, I waited a few days and I went ham on fucking Facebook because I was personally friends with a lot of these people on Facebook with fucking right shit. I posted up fucking videos of the fuck of those dudes. Those dudes beating the fuck out of Antifa, that other group.
The Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys fucking up Antifa.
Yeah.
I posted crazy Trump shit. I was just going crazy with that shit for a few weeks. And when I went to go check my friends list, would you believe it or not, about 2/3 of them aren't on there anymore. So I was like, all right, now I've got them probably hoping I never fucking come back. So that's perfect. And then eventually I just stopped going.
Wow.
And I think I probably made it to the point to where they were like, this dude is, there was a guy I mentioned him before, James Wasserman. He was a libertarian. Mm-hmm. He would take pictures of his fucking pistol on his fucking nightstand and say, thank God for the Second Amendment, and post it just to trigger fucking other people in Thelema, because I think he understood it was turning into a liberal fucking side.
Wow, I did not know that aspect of it. Wow.
Yeah, but I forgot where I was going with him. But like he was high up. He wrote books. He started the fucking lodge that I even started attending in New York before he moved to fucking Florida. If it was not for him, that lodge would not even fucking exist. And 2/3 of that lodge fucking shitted on that dude and hated him. So I knew if I played that role, I would probably not be fucking welcome anyway. And so eventually I just like I stopped going to everything, stopped doing stuff, stopped talking to those people, eventually just erased them from my fucking Facebook, and then waited a bit and then filled out paperwork. And that was another thing, like I was able to get, because I knew somebody else who left, I didn't even have to ask the lodge headmaster or anything. I got the email address for the the out of order lodge, the head. I forgot these fucking specific names.
That's okay. Yeah.
Uh, and you have to actually, to leave the OTO, you actually have to petition. Like you have to send in a letter asking for it. Then they send you all this paperwork back. You fill it out and you send it back. And then they're supposed to send you a paper saying that like you've been removed. So I went through all that thinking I was removed. And then eventually, because of that, I really had zero fucks. I had went on my own podcast at the beginning. It was early when I started doing it. I actually explained Minerval first, second, and third degree. I put it out there. I said, "Fuck them." I had a
Wow.
book. There is a book called The Secret Rituals of the OTO. You can find the PDF. It's just the problem is half of that shit is wrong. A lot of the movements and a lot of the phrases are certain specific, the words that they tell you. They'll give you phrases and words at the end of every initiation. That's like, like the secret word. They'll tell you all that shit. That shit is even still wrong in that book. But since like I was like, all right, I've been through these, I can explain what's wrong. I put that out. Fucking couple of weeks later, Rumble, BitChute, and Spreaker all told me they got DMCA fucking notices. It is copyrighted material that I do not have permission to fucking put out because they've been contacted by the owner and
Wow.
told that this is, so they took my shit down. They took it down.
Wow.
So then at the beginning I really wasn't showing myself. So all it was like either a logo and me talking. If you were watching video, you just heard my voice and I wasn't using my name. So they probably didn't know who I was. Now, almost literally a fucking year later, and I've been showing who I was probably a few months after that. Actually, I gave zero fucks eventually. But I guess like they didn't forget the show that did that. And I'm assuming somebody kept the tabs and they keep checking. And I don't know if they eventually, when they saw my face, maybe somebody was just like, passing it around for all, I don't know, pass it around the OTO. Do you know who this dude is? And eventually, my personal email that I used to use, not for the podcast, that I used to use for the OTO, contacted me and told me that I was being put on like probation. And I'm thinking, well, I thought I was not even a member anymore.
Yeah, I thought I was out. What are you talking about? Yeah.
And then explaining because I had broke oaths and exposed on podcasts that I own, the New York Patriot and the Occult Rejects have exposed like the degrees or whatever, and that it's like a violation, and that we have to start. Now we have to let everybody know on the way up, and you'll hear from them eventually. About
Jesus,
2 weeks later,
dude.
2 weeks later, I got an email from the Outerhead or the fucking name. Got an email from them. I even posted. I even got a letter in the mail too. They
got after it. They got after it. Wow.
They sent me a letter saying that it was unexcusable what I did, basically, and it's like one of the worst things that you could do, and that you are. They removed me. I'm banned for life now.
Okay.
So, but I was like, I thought I had less. So, like, even that paperwork that I did, was that even legit, or did you just be like, oh yeah, this is just?
Yeah, that's almost an ego move too. It's like, hey, I quit. No, you're fired. It's like, no, motherfucker, I already quit. You can't fire me. I already quit.
So I was like, wow. So like, yeah.
Oh,
so then that's technically, officially, I guess, how I was. I left with and got kicked out.
That's nuts. What a story, man. That's.
Yeah.
I wonder. See, that's. Man, there's so many things I could say about that because there's so much crossover, and I everything you're saying reminds me of that that Altion Childs guy from Australia on the View or the American Idol or whatever, who went online and did like a 3-hour show about his initiation into the Freemasons, and then he ended up getting popped at some point. Like, that's crazy, man. Like, it reminds me of like mafia style stuff. Like, you take the blood oath once you're in, and if you spill the beans, we're gonna come get you.
You know what I think is a
Crazy.
mistake that a lot of people do, and like You know, and again, like that was even something I guess for me. One, it was never a big thing for me to start coming out and like rambling off specific places and names, but I do think like this is the problem, and like I do understand it in its sense. Like they even say, "Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love him the will." Basically, it's like you do you, and then until you stop me from me being me, I let you do you.
Right.
You do you.
Mm-hmm.
If I start giving places and names, unfortunately, not me, but you can get some crazy fanatic that now wants to go do something. And
Sure.
now, because of what I put out there, the magic of this whole system of podcasting,
Right.
hearing a voice from somewhere else telling you something, and now you're going and throwing like fucking Molotov cocktails or
Right.
eggs or spray painting or harassing people on their social media, then
Mm-hmm.
that becomes an issue. And then I think at that point they can kind of consider that as being magic used on them.
Hmm.
So I do think like if you really look at like how you're going to present shit, and again, like I said, like I think focusing on like a lot of like who started what and how this happened, that's really not the case. I think just explaining what the fuck magic is and trying to show you how it's manipulating you is more important. So it's like
Right.
kind of easy for me, I think, to cover that shit because I'm not tossing like, oh, well, this motherfucker was going to the lodge at this address. I'm not doing all that, and I'm
Yeah, you're
not
not doxing
blaming
them or
anybody.
anything. Right.
Yeah, and I'm not blaming anybody, like I said, or putting names out there. So I'm not encroaching on anybody's will. But I think a lot of mistakes other people do when they deal with shit is they do get too specific to where you kind of are like, because of humans who
Right.
now can listen to this,
Mm-hmm.
can take that shit and encroach on their will.
Yeah, I've had a couple experiences with that where I talked about it. I told a story that somebody listened and emailed me and said, "I don't want you talking about that shit publicly. You know, you're slandering me or whatever." So I can see that. That's part of the deal with podcasting too, is that you just gotta. I mean, I hate to say be careful about what you say, but I mean, it's still free speech or whatever. But I mean, you definitely, if you're gonna break any laws of slander or anything like that,
You
I
want
suppose
to
you gotta be careful.
you want to know the truth? This even has shown to me how fucked up society is and how fucked up podcasting is. And I'm just gonna say this real quick, and no names, but like there's
Yeah.
plenty of shows, especially like when you get into Q shows
Oh
that were
yeah.
huge. If you were into occultism, you would even realize they're selling you shit because of their logo. I'm just gonna put it that way.
Oh
There's
yeah.
plenty of fucking occultists and magicians out there in the podcasting community. But like I've actually experienced more blowback and bullshit from people for stating an opinion about another show than I did from people leaving a fucking secret society.
That's
That's
bananas.
actually should show you
Yeah.
that fucking podcasts, in a sense, or certain people can be a cult in itself.
Wow. That's oh boy.
I've
Yeah.
actually dealt with more shit talking from people and aggravating shit for an opinion about a show or two than I dealt with leaving a secret society. That's fucked up.
That is fucked up.
I
Well, that just goes to show you
never
not
had anybody hit me up from the OTO and be like, shut your fucking mouth or fuck you. I mean, maybe fuck you and shit like that, but
right,
like
right.
nothing, no threats, never telling me to stop.
Hmm. Well, that just goes to show you, it's somebody's fragile ego again was you know how it is. You tell I mean, all the time I'm on Facebook, I'll see some, liberal like the other day, I saw someone post some ignorant shit on the other 98 whatever page, which is super lefty. And I just commented, "No, it's not. I didn't talk shit. I didn't give a reason or an opinion. I was just like, no, it's not." And then boom, there's like 20 comments. Fuck you, you fucking Trumpist piece of shit. Blah, blah. I'm like, God damn it. All I did was disagree. You can't even disagree peacefully. That's the problem with you. You got issues that you need to work out.
It's so funny, and it's like it's very entertaining at times. I guess on like my Instagram, and then when it comes to Twitter, like at one point I did post something about Trump and Klaus Schwab, like a little fucking interview, and basically my opinion, Trump kind of put Klaus Schwab up in a fucking pedestal. Somehow, I don't know if a big page retweeted it, but somehow that fucking video I posted ended up with over 500,000 hits. And we
Wow.
just got
Holy shit.
flooded with like hundreds of people adding us. And
Nice.
I
Wow.
was, well, the thing is though too, is this shows you how stupid people are. How they just didn't even fucking look through the rest of our tweets.
Mm-hmm.
It was a huge chunk, not all of them, but a decent chunk actually of libtards, of liberals,
Yeah.
that added us, assuming that I guess we were pro Biden because I put out a bad thing on Trump. So then, like a few days later, when I post fucking Biden doing some dumb shit, now all of a sudden I'm getting the liberals that fucking added my account, flipping the fuck
Tribalism,
out.
man.
And
Oh,
then
you talk shit about my team. It's all team mentality. Yep.
And then and then Instagram, it's actually backwards. I could post shit on Biden, any fucking person on the left, all fucking day, shit all over them. I do one Trump, Elon Musk, or Ron DeSantis thing, and motherfuckers are freaking the fuck out.
It's crazy.
And assuming, and they're always like, oh, Biden was a better choice. Biden was a better choice. Biden was a better choice. Do you even understand? Have you ever looked at my account and saw that I just shit on the left fucking 10 times in the last 3 days?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, you just automatically assume because I put a post about Trump or DeSantis, I'm a fucking liberal Democrat. I'm like, no, I'm neither. That's why I can talk shit about both sides because I haven't picked a team.
Yep, and that's
all it is. That's all it is.
That's exactly. I talk about that on my show all the time too, like how nobody takes even 5 seconds of extra time to investigate something. It's so easy to just pick a side, pick a team without thinking about the content or the material at all. And that goes right back to what you were saying about the occult and about secret societies and all that stuff. It's like I've had people say, you're already at the 3rd degree of Freemasonry based on some of the things that I know that I've heard you say on your podcast before. If you ever wanted to join a lodge, you could probably already be, because of just, your desire to seek truth and to look behind the veil and all that kind of stuff. And everything you're saying reminds me exactly of that. It's like there's so many just idiot moron lemmings out there that this is my team and anything they say goes, no matter if it's moral or real or true. And anything that you say against it, fuck you, you're not on my team, this is my team, and they can do whatever they want. And they don't even look at the actions. It's all just tribalism.
Yeah. I even remember when I first started my show, and I kind of got out of the whole two thing paradigm or whatever. I just was kind of down the middle. I hadn't got too deep with occultism. So for me to try to start putting that out, I was I think most of the people following me really may not even understand what I'm getting at if they haven't listened to prior shit. So I would kind of do more of just questionable things about these people. They said this and did this, is that really, but yet they're saying that, just shit like that. And I had made a couple of posts about, or maybe just made a post like that about Trump, and people were going off, and I'm like, yo, not for nothing, but I really if I'm going to vote for this person, shouldn't I also kind of really be looking if I'm going to give them my vote, I really should be giving some thought about who the fuck am I really voting for?
Absolutely.
It's just all of a sudden oh yeah, that's my guy or that's my team, and that's it. They do no wrong. That's fucking just idiotic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
I should be holding these people accountable if they're getting my fucking vote.
Yeah.
And now I just won't vote anyway because I just think it's a fucking joke.
Yeah, it's a big charade. It seems like these days. I mean, it's not even. I always make an argument about the debates. It's like those aren't debates. That's a show. That's a TV show. It's theater. Yeah, they give you the questions before they, the politicians even show up. Let's have a real debate. They'd all be scared. Nobody would even show up for a real debate.
I almost even went out and voted for fucking, just because I didn't want Hochul in anymore. I was going to go vote for Zeldin. He's a Republican. And I was just well, for one, even if voting counts, this is actually a horrible excuse, but I was oh, he's not going to win anyway. If voting actually counts, all those people, if they were to vote, maybe it would actually make a difference. But at first, I'm already thinking he's probably not going to win anyway, just because he's a Republican, and I think the shit's fixed for us to be stuck with Democrats for a while. I was I don't think he's going to win. And then I was just all it is really, in my opinion, I'm just a monkey walking into a fucking box, flipping a switch. This shit is a joke. It's a scam. Look at fucking Pennsylvania. They voted in a dead guy, a guy who's been dead for a month.
There's 3 or 4 states that did that. Yep.
Those people who did that, they're fucking more ignorant than a monkey. They're literally just like a fucking mouse walking, in their little lab setting, walking up. Yeah, I'm supposed to flick the D switch. Okay, I'm done. Yep. You don't even know what the fuck you're voting for. You just oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
And you know what? And the people that are running the show, the whole World Economic Forum,
They
all that stuff,
know.
they know that. They half of it was, you know, a progression over time, creating that situation, getting people away from thinking for themselves and being self-sufficient. I call it the tyranny of convenience. They gave you the answer to
Oh.
all your questions. You know, it's like, oh, you don't need to farm or garden or raise livestock. Just go to the grocery store. You know, you don't need to learn about herbal remedies or any of that stuff. Here, just take a pill. Just get this vaccine. And over time, you get to a place where they got you by the balls, like George Carlin always said. You know, it's like you can't you can't go back from that. I mean, you can't even. I think you need a permit to have a garden in certain places now. Like
Oh yeah, where they
you need a
probably, yeah, I
permit
remember
for
that.
you need a permit to live your life. You know, it's just bananas how over time we've gotten to this place where we're slaves. We're slaves to it. And now that they know that they've got people dumbed down and just pumped full of the woke agenda, indoctrinated, yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. Now you're right. I mean, they're going to walk out there. They're just going to roll their plan right into your living room while you're sitting on the couch.
And I even
Scary.
think a lot of the time is like they'll even put out the truth out there in little minuscule
Yeah,
things.
that's part of the deal, right? You have to show them what you're
Yeah.
doing
Yes,
in some way.
exactly. But yeah, yeah, it's all a bunch of fucking
Have
bullshit.
you ever heard about this guy, Cub Cooker? He's got a
No.
paranormal podcast, and he talks a lot about Gnostic and
Oh no, you might have to send me the link for that. I don't. That'd
different
be interesting.
explanations of scripture and stuff. I find him really fascinating. He's got he's deep. Like you can tell that this guy's researched the stuff from both sides for a long time. It seems like. So yeah, I'll send you that link.
Yeah, definitely. I would
Um,
like that.
but yeah, so recently I saw you you did post some Elon Musk stuff, and I know I brought up Jack Parsons and all that shit. He's the
Hmm.
Antichrist and all that stuff from before. So um what do you think about, you know, talking about those higher degrees of all the secret societies and all that stuff, and then you see the world events as they play out, like you mentioned 9/11, and you know the creation
Hmm.
of the rockets from Parsons, and then you know the atomic bomb allegedly from Oppenheimer. These guys were OTO. They're in you know Pasadena cooking the shit up in their apartments or whatever. So um, do you think that that's what happens at the highest levels of these organizations, is that they get together and they use this magic and this conjuring of beings or whatever to bring this knowledge into existence? Is that what CERN's all about? And you know what, you know, the Nazis were big into the occult. Like you just start
Oh yeah.
yeah,
But
you
my
know,
opinion, if Nazism, now again, if you're not one of the psyop, then you're one of the people that actually understand Nazi is just it's occultism. That's
right.
exactly what that is. It's
And
just
that's my point. And
yeah.
that's what I'm wondering is, you know, it is obviously they're never going to tell you and you're never going to find out unless you're in it. But if you're smart enough and curious enough to look at world events and start connecting the dots, all the usual suspects start showing up, and they're all members of these groups. And so I'm wondering, at the highest levels, do they have some alien ancient knowledge of technology and all this stuff that's what, when we see an innovation, like, you know, we went from the telephone to the smartphone, and then went from the television to the, you know, whatever, virtual reality now with video games, and then the metaverse and the fucking matrix is going to come at some point. Do you think they've had all this knowledge for years and years and years, and they're just using the numbers and the timelines to roll it out, or are we really discovering or rediscovering it as, you know, time marches on throughout society? What do you think about that? Do you think they've always known, or are we relearning it somehow?
It's a very very deep answer for all these things. It's a deep question, very good question.
Yeah,
The first thing I
think
wanted to
about it all the
mention
time.
real quick, well, for one, I think we're in cycles. I unfortunately think there's probably just a cycle that, regardless if it's going to get shitty or not, it's just going to get shitty, and there's going to be there's going to be a death and a rebirth, you know.
For sure. Yep.
But so I do think there is like some cyclic thing going on. Real quick with that too. You know, you mentioned Parsons and you mentioned Elon Musk. You know, look at those two,
They're all in it
and
somehow. They're all connected for
well,
sure.
now we've even covered Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, okay.
recently. And
Hmm.
now that got us over to that ended us bringing us into the Mormons, which then ended up bringing us into Freemasonry because Mormons were started by a Freemason,
Oh
Joseph
God, and they're
Smith.
like the elitist of preppers too, of doomsday
Uh,
preppers, the Mormons. Like, holy shit. Yeah.
and believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy. People may not know this. There's more Mormon than Jews. So maybe Jews aren't
Hmm.
running the world, or people who call themselves Jews
Interesting.
may not
Yeah.
be the only ones running the world.
Hmm.
They are the fifth largest private landowner in the United States, and they
Oh
own
yeah.
the most land in Florida. So, like, don't sleep on these people.
Yeah, they're
But
keeping it quiet. If they really are fulfilling that role, they're doing a good job of keeping themselves quiet. That's a good
fuck
point.
yeah, fuck
That's a
yeah.
good point.
So we covered Skinwalker Ranch, and the owner is a Mormon himself. A lot
Hmm.
of the past owners were Mormons. A lot of, I'd say about 75% of the people that has ever given any kind of details or testimonies about what they've seen were all Mormon.
Hmm.
People who wrote books about the area were all Mormon. I understand it's in Utah, but I think there's something going on.
God, now I'm gonna go down
Uh,
that rabbit hole, man. I
so,
need to
so
learn about this shit.
and Brandon Fugel, you know, uh, admits that he's a Mormon. He admits that he's into like kind of like weird shit now. He just did something on the New York Post. They were doing like a 3 or 4 part series on Skinwalker Ranch, and he finally came out and admitted that he is into that shit. And if you look at the bookcase behind him, he's got Freemasonry books and shit about occultism on his fucking bookshelf.
There it
So
is.
now I wasted all that time to get to this. Jack Parsons now on Skinwalker Ranch. If people haven't noticed it, Brandon Fugel for like I don't know a good season was just basically wasting time shooting rockets up into the sky, trying to
Ah.
calculate shit. So we got Jack Parsons shooting rockets. We got Elon Musk with his fucking phallic fucking spaceships, and we got Brandon Fugel with his rockets, and Bigelow. This is another guy. Robert Bigelow owned that ranch prior to Brandon Fugel.
Hmm.
Bigelow makes crafts that Elon Musk's rockets take you with. This guy is selling a 52 million fucking shuttle type thing that SpaceX will take you up with that will allow you to stay on Mars for 90 days.
Holy shit.
What is with all
Wow.
this fucking rocket
See,
missile
God.
fucking type of shit going? What is up with these people? I honestly think one, yes, it probably is like they're understanding hidden science.
For
But
sure.
I also think
There's gotta be some of that.
there is a way of expressing that you understand that science and advertising it, which is why
Ah.
I think the rockets are a fucking thing. Because
Hmm.
it is also a way to show you I'm part of the club and I understand this area.
That's an awesome perspective, man. I never thought about it like that, but that makes a
But
lot of sense.
and then
Yeah.
when you talked about like the secret science, like do these people the secret science or do they understand this and that? In my opinion, when you have magical effects, and this is the problem, coming back into a human, like I said before, you have free will. You can be an asshole. You can be self-centered, or you can be selfless or
Mhm.
selfish. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And all that in between. You have all
Right.
that option. You have an infinite amount of personalities and assholes you can choose to be here.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So I think unfortunately you have that option to be an asshole after you have a magical effect, even though you had to kind of go into it with good intentions in a sense. I think.
Yeah.
Um, when you have these experiences, in my opinion, you are, people want to call it God, the consciousness, the all, the source, whatever we came from. I do believe we are all connected to that. And basically, if you do that real work, if you work on yourself, work on shadow work, remove the fucking chains that have you tethered to this fucking world, you
Mhm.
will take all that bullshit out of there and you will actually have a conversation with God probably for the first time in
I
fucking
love it.
centuries,
I
or in this
completely
life.
agree. I completely agree
So
with that. Yep,
you will understand and receive knowledge from him.
for sure.
And then
Connect
you'll come
I
back.
like how you said connected to the source. I love that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then at that point, once you come back here, you have a chance of, you have a choice of, it's like, well, what do I do with this? Do I try to help humanity or, do I do this or do I do that? But I
Yeah.
do think that there is, I use an example like a light bulb hanging from the ceiling. You turn it on, it's just like this one big glowing bulb. You take like a spaghetti strainer over it now, and now it's just a whole bunch of pinned lights being shot onto the floor. I think that's us here on Earth, and our job is to go back up that light, go past that fucking spaghetti strainer, and have a conversation with God
Yeah.
and get to know God and ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that yeah, I think that when you come back after that experience, like you will see it, and this is what I was getting at with the whole rocket thing. You can start seeing art and being like, "Fuck, that's explaining an experience I had out there, but had no idea I've had to fucking tell anybody or explain it."
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's
especially like in a
unspeakable
lot of
experience. Yeah.
sci-fi movies and a lot of fucking just like art, especially like religious shit. It's they're visual archetypes to tell you a story of that transcendence or coming back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or the stages that you have to go through with that. And after you have those experiences, in my opinion, all those things you start looking at it, and it's like starts clicking, almost to the point to where you're like, this is too much. It's literally as if like God bestowed you with like understanding,
Right.
and sometimes it may not even be a good thing. It might be too much and too heady for you, which is a reason why maybe you really should understand what's going to happen before you start practicing magic. You may not be ready for certain things that will be
Right.
revealed to you. But I
Yep.
do think what I was getting at with that, us being separated from that bulb, is I do think we like it is like kind of a communal consciousness that everybody is able to tap into. That's how like somebody here in Mexico had the idea of a pyramid, and somebody over in Egypt had an idea of a pyramid
Right.
before
Right.
mail or fucking the internet. It's because they had that same experience and were trying to replicate an experience in here on Earth, and it just ended up looking like the other guy who had the same
Yeah.
fucking thing over there, because it's an all-knowing that we can all tap into and grab from.
Yeah. It's called, what are they? There's a name for the universal knowledge, or the prana, or whatever they say in Indian cultures.
Or maybe mana or
The
something like
oneness.
that.
Yeah. Oneness with, we're
Yeah.
all one consciousness. Yeah. That's interesting stuff, man. It's fascinating to learn about how, like, like even when you go back to Christian times and then you realize how much prior to that there is, it's like, that's when my mind just gets blown. I'm like, what's real? And like the quest for that absolute truth. I mean, it can take you a lifetime and you still don't even get close to scratching the surface. So it's like a blessing and a curse being curious and wanting to learn this stuff. I
Mhm.
feel like, you know what I mean? Like you can never know everything, but
And I think when it comes down to like music videos and celebrities and politics and shit like that, I think a lot of stuff is actually thrown into there, like for people who understand, like especially music videos and artists.
oh
Like I
yeah.
think that, like in my opinion, and I'm not saying it because I was a part of the UTO. It's not like I'm boasting or proud about it, but I
Right.
really do think when it comes to like movies and music and shit like that, a lot of it is a serious thelemic undertones. Like
Oh,
I
I
really
think it's,
think they got that shit on rap pretty good.
oh, absolutely. I mean, how many times have I can't even count how many times I've seen this and this, you
Oh
know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
like all the triangles over the eye, the cover in the one eye, and all the magazine covers and the videos with all that stuff. And when you see these celebrities and sports people and everyone that has a platform doing the same signs and symbols, like you said, it eventually it's on, like you can't pretend you didn't see it. Like you're gonna have that conversation with yourself where you go, what the fuck is this? Like everybody is doing this shit, and what does it mean? And I think that's where a lot of people start diving in, is when they start seeing the symbols, like you said. Like I just saw your post today about like this one, the
Oh
triangle
yeah,
above,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
oops,
boy.
yeah, oops, the north south, like all that stuff. That stuff blows my mind because you can see it in symbolism on the country's flags, like you said, the sigils for
Oh,
like
I'm telling you right now,
old ancient families. Like, it's nuts.
flags and like family shields and crests, those are all talismans.
Yeah,
They are
yeah,
telling you, or at least when that was designed. As you can see, our country represents nothing the way it was earlier.
for sure.
But I
Yeah,
mean, the flag could still even really still match what's kind of going on, or maybe match the intentions. But at least that when that flag and those shields were brought into conception, that was making a statement.
Yeah.
It's letting you know either experiences they have or what their means are because they're into this shit. Like
Interesting.
what is my will here? What am I
Yeah.
trying to accomplish here, or what have I experienced? So you can let other people know I am of the knowing. It's just like an
Interesting.
advertisement. It's just an advertisement to let everybody else know you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I just read
Yeah.
this thing today about um the double connected eagle on like the Russian flag or whatever, and how that
Yes.
came from ancient like the Moors and like Tartaria or whatever, and then eventually the Russian flag is uh the Moorish flag and the Tartarian flag was that eagle, black eagle on a yellow background, right? And then the next one that I saw was the two together, hooked and like the inversion of it or whatever. And then in the middle on the Russian flag, there's this little thing that a guy,
Oh, the guy's like
what,
stabbing the fucking
yeah,
dragon.
white, the guy on the white horse is stabbing the eagle, and so you're basically saying that Russia is the death of the Moors and ancient Tartaria, and we are the new, we are what came out of all of that. It's like you said, it's fascinating.
Even
They're
believe it or not,
advertising what
though,
they did. Yeah.
even the switching of the colors can actually mean the intentions too, to a certain thing as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like, oh God, I'm not even to get into, but like even with the eagle, I mean, the eagle would be more of a symbolism like of you heading up the tree,
Mm-hmm.
because the eagle would go with Jupiter at chess head, and that's like the sphere before you cross over. An eagle could fit there, so like them stabbing the eagle could just literally be telling us, "You motherfuckers ain't going nowhere. We're still running the show."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
just
a good
something
point.
just as like that. You're going to keep being ignorant slaves. You're not going to know God. That's all. Like.
So when you say crossover, like what is that? Is that like you need to get good at the magic and the ritual in order to get your body, like your astral body, to that place? Do you have to, what's that process look like to those of us that don't really fully
Oh.
understand that?
A
I know that's
lot
probably
of
a big
a lot
question.
of
Yeah.
inner work, a lot of shadow work. You're
Yeah.
going to have to really, keep check on yourself. You're going to have to start looking at your behaviors, your thoughts. Start, catching, what the reasons why you have these behaviors and thoughts. You have to start analyzing
Hmm.
yourself like seriously with that. You're gonna have to. And it's unfortunate that most people, don't like to meditate, but I think that's meditation
Big
is going to
deal.
bring, you're not going to have magic. I mean, you can, but if you
Mhm.
start off with meditating, I mean, that's all I have to do now.
Hmm.
But like, you're going to have to learn how to meditate. Every,
Interesting.
every order or anybody that I've ever watched that is like somewhat reputable that tries to explain or teach magic will teach magic. They will always say, unfortunately, this isn't exciting, but the first thing you should be doing before you start learning any spells and anything, meditate and learn how
Hmm.
to do it.
Wow.
Everybody will say start with meditation. There's a fucking reason for that.
So,
You have to do work on yourself.
right.
You have to be comfortable enough to sit there with your eyes closed, not enthralled by the light of fucking Lucifer, by
Hmm.
this fucking matrix that we're put into.
Right.
We're gonna have to be okay with not looking at the bullshit.
Yeah.
Close your eyes, shut off all those radio stations that are fucking telling your brain what to do, and
Hmm.
then eventually you can actually start hearing God. But like, you're going to have to get to the point to where there's a bunch of things with meditation. You have to get your breathing a certain way. You're going to have to
Hmm.
practice this meditation, in my opinion, to where you are able to actually paint pictures with your mind closed.
Hmm.
You're going to have, yeah, a lot of work like that. And when it comes down to it, and this is where it's going to get fucking wild, or maybe it's not wild to you, but in my opinion, for you to have an actual real magical experience, except for astral travel, I feel like that's almost kind of like in between, like you're getting there. It's like
Hmm.
almost like not fully there, but that is part of it. Real magic. I don't know if you've ever heard about like how you can hear about like these monks or these Buddhists or these people that
Oh yeah.
go into this meditation and almost legit seem like like they're dead, or like they just have enough vitals for their fucking body to
Right.
still be
Yep.
okay. That actually is what's needed to happen.
Yeah,
You
and that goes back to the
literally,
frequencies too, right? Getting your frequency band in a different spot.
you
Yeah.
have to start. to a certain frequency, you're going to have to hemisync your brain, pop open your pineal gland, your
Mhm.
heart, and all that has to resonate in the same frequency that the earth is resonating in. And
Yeah,
then
that's
you
so
fucking,
fascinating to me.
but you
Yeah.
pop out, but like in all real actuality, like, when they say a death and a rebirth,
Mhm.
you technically are, as crazy as this is going to sound, you technically are like dead.
Wow.
Like people who have near death experiences. A
Mhm.
lot of their stuff, and I've spoken to some of them because I started questioning my experience because like it seemed like it was just weird shit. It's because I even had to go to the hospital and was in the hospital for 3 days. So it was all just very like weird shit.
Wow.
I started to have to really start questioning what really happened and why, why is this like this?
Holy shit. You had to go to the
So
hospital for meditation? Is
well,
that what you're
meditation and
saying?
then a magical experience. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, dude.
Uh,
Holy
so
shit.
so uh So yeah, I really, as crazy as it sounds, I really do think because you could do it to yourself in maybe 5 seconds, but it felt like an eternity while you're out there. But
Huh.
I do think you do technically kind of, believe it or not, die. I mean, there's even been movies. There was that one movie where they were like in the hospital and they're basically knocking people out for a certain amount of time and then bringing them back.
Mhm.
They were showing you fucking magic.
Interesting. Wow.
I'll be totally honest with you right now, and one of the reasons why I stopped fucking with the shit because it can be very addicting, and I
Mm.
feel like the more and more you do it, the more and more of a percentage of a chance you can be an asshole. So I did not. I knew I was already teetering. I'm already teetering a fine line of not being one to begin with. I can't
Right.
keep. I eventually I'm just gonna fall over to the asshole side. So I just was like, let me just try to do good with what I've already
Right.
experienced.
And
Um,
yeah, the knowledge that you have for sure.
Yeah, but fuck, I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry. But
No, that's
oh
okay.
no, but it's definitely, I definitely, as crazy as it sounds, I definitely do think that you are technically dying to the self, and like that, you like it's even in the Matrix. I mean, I think like the Matrix even shows you the whole thing, like
Mhm.
like when he goes and sees that guy in the archetype or
The
the
architect.
architect,
Yeah.
all those visions and all those screens, all the versions that Neo could choose to be, all the
Mhm.
things he could tap into be, he had to annihilate it. And the one reason he didn't get past that is because he was too in love with that fucking girl.
And yep,
He
that's
still had an attachment to this realm. And it
yeah,
wasn't until he was possibly okay with her dying that he actually ever ascended. Because you
interesting.
have to let go of or you have to be okay with
Mhm.
letting go of every single thing that keeps you here. And
That concept comes up quite a bit when you think about
and
this stuff. Yep.
and to circle back, I'll use a leftist quote. We'll circle back to the OTO. In
Mhm.
my opinion, sex is probably one of the easiest weapons to use on people to keep them tethered here because there is like a very fine line, in my opinion, of healthy to unhealthy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That
So I
plexus
think it's
energy
yeah,
that's supposed to come up your chakras. Yeah, I've heard about that
yes.
before. Yep.
So yeah, and even with that, it's going to keep you. I mean, it's like it's like so fucking far down in your body you're focused on. That's keeping you fucking grounded. You know what I'm saying? If that's
Interesting.
all you're worried about using. So
Yeah.
it's just a really good way to keep people grounded. And I mean, if anybody knows anything about the old Aleister Crowley, I mean, sex is all over the place, or at least a sexual image is very heavily advertised. And I
Right.
think, that's another weapon of the psyop. Focus more on that and not the occult ideas. I mean, just like real quick, and not to get into it too deep, just as an example, think of a pineal gland
Mhm.
or the way that it's always drawn on people's foreheads.
Right.
Not to be vulgar, but that could easily look like a vagina.
Yeah, I can
Pulling
see that.
open,
Mhm.
opening up the veil could be the same thing as opening up that. And
Mhm.
then your pineal gland shoots light down the middle of your forehead. To
Hmm.
me, could be the insertion of the male energy and the ejaculation
Yeah.
going down the middle of the brain. But make it sound like fucking and nobody will understand it.
Clever. It's like keeping people grounded and making it not easy for them to know
Because
their
because
true
because this
power.
is
Yeah.
because this is what will happen when you try to explain something in an occult science in sexual way. People who love sex and have gone too far with it are just going to take that, run with it, get even dumber. And then the people who were afraid and think everything's bad says sex, Satan. I don't want to understand that or even look at it. So now nobody fully actually understands what's being said.
And that's why it becomes an interpersonal thing. Yep. It's what your level of understanding is going to rely 100% on
Oh, that's
you
another thing too.
and
Yes,
you diving into yourself. Yep.
as you start having experiences and start like, because like really it's so hard to like kind of explain magic. It's like all you can kind of do is like have like ideas and thoughts or visions like in
Right.
your mind of trying to explain what happened. And then it's like when you do, and then like you see it represented in art or in like, the Scarlet Horror I was saying before, very sexualized idea, you look at that and then you're like, oh, but wait, even though this looks fucked up, this is just an edgy way of the vision that I already had in my head from the experience I had.
Yeah.
So as you start having these experiences and these attainments, even in my opinion, you could start looking at other things that yes, it's, I mean, yeah, and it's sometimes it's like, yo, why don't you just fucking come out and say it the way it is?
Man, you know what? This conversation.
Why'd you have to do it that way? I'd rather you sound like a fucking nut job and saying like, "Yeah, you technically have to die and cross over to heaven and come
But isn't
back."
that?
Like,
But isn't that what they're saying? Isn't that kind of what they're saying?
But they're covering it in a fucked up
By
way.
covering it up, they're saying, "Look, this is up to you. Fucking figure it out.
Yeah,
It's a you thing." Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's like even like if like like let's say I had a bunch of people be like, "Oh, teach me, help me, give me. I want to, show me how." I still wouldn't even do it. You know what I'm saying? Like that still has to be a personal fucking thing. So
for sure,
you have to
Inner
have
quest.
that. So I guess I understand to a certain extent, like in doing what I'm doing and telling you that's what I even think magic is good enough.
Yeah.
If people to think that's possible and understand that, all right, now if you have the faith that that's true, now go off, and if you have the experience to make that faith a knowing, it's a huge difference there too. Faith and belief and knowing are two opposite things.
Oh
really.
Yeah.
You experience something and know it to be true within yourself. Faith, you're just hoping and believing this idea that somebody told you is real.
That's a good way to explain that.
So you have to. I can't do that for someone, so they'd have to, and I wouldn't want to even be like responsible for helping them get to that.
Dude, that reminds me of the Matrix. I can only show you the door.
Yeah,
you're the one that has to walk
you're gonna
through
have to walk through that, understand what the fuck happened, and then try to figure shit out. For sure.
Dude, you know what this just reminded me of? So there's a half price books store right down the street from me, and I go down there all the time. And in the far back, there's a locked case, and in that case is $100 thick ass, and it's old. It looks like it's like maybe early 1900s book, and it's a Blavatsky book. And next to it is Ritual Magic, and next one is Hermes, talking about Hermes and all that. And I'm like, wow, they got, not only are these books expensive, but they're under lock and key. You can't just pick them up and start thumbing through them. And that's another thing where I'm like, God, what is, I now want to talk to the guy that runs this bookstore. What do you know, dude? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go pick that book up just because it's a personal quest. You're going to have to dive in to get to the level of understanding you seek to get to. And it goes back to just, I mean, my interest in having you on the show today was I wanted to hear a perspective from someone that has taken steps on that quest and started walking that path. And maybe I'm not going to have complete understanding based on all the things that you've told me, but at least I'm going to have a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more of a knowledge base to draw from for my personal quest. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, this stuff just fascinates the shit out of me. I love talking about it.
So do I. Yeah, for sure.
It's awesome.
But yeah, it really is it's the most deep personal thing. I mean, having a relationship with God is the most deep personal thing you do anyway. So, if you're doing magic for the right way, it is such a personal experience.
Yeah, man. Stuff. So what do you got going on now on your shows? What's going on in your world as far as podcasting and
my show, I'm starting to I was working on a planetary series, planetary magic series thing I'm dropping. I just dropped part one. I did that with another guest that's very big into tarot and studies planetary magic.
Cool.
Not that like he's casting circles, but like that's his thing that he's big into.
Yeah.
My show, I mean, I know I used to have a lot of guests on, and I still will have guests on. Like I even told you, I'm gonna put this out on my end as well too.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. We'll co-share it and
Yeah, for
blow it
sure.
up for sure.
But I'm starting to either cover things on my own, maybe do a little bit shorter videos, or I'm trying to find guests that I'm just getting tired of like, yeah, you're gonna come on, I'm gonna sit here, chill out, and you're just gonna tell your story. No, like I actually
Right.
want to like start covering things.
Yeah, diving
like,
into it. Yep.
yeah,
sure.
because like the Occult Rejects, that's me and Lux. We already do that on the Occult Rejects. I mean,
sure.
we use guests. We use guests in between series. One, because we think they're good, and two is we need fillers so we can research and record the next
So you
series. You know
take
what I'm
some
saying?
time. Yep. I know exactly
Yeah.
what you
So
mean.
like,
I do that too. Mhm.
so I'm doing that with Lux, but like Lux has his own life. So like if I have other ideas, or even if he has other ideas, well, it's gonna have to wait until we're done with that. So
Mhm.
for me, I have more time just because of my situation right now. I can, if it's not a crazy deep, but like something where I still have to look into and find stuff. I can do two. I can do one for my show and one for them. So now I'm starting to kind of do like tour light. I guess I put it like that way, like a lighter version of the Occult Rejects with either
Right.
a co-host or somebody else who can cover that topic with me. So
Yeah.
if you come across my NY Patriot show, you will see it's just fucking 2 years of guests, but I am actually starting to switch over to kind of neither co-hosting a topic with somebody or actually covering the topic myself in like
Yeah.
a 20-30 minute video.
Yeah. It's good to
So I'm trying to change. I'm just going with the change, going with the flow.
Yeah.
It's what I feel like I want to do, so I'm going with it.
I've noticed a lot of podcasters doing that where they'll get to a point where, like I know Ryan Dean from Dangerous World, he started another show with some other guys. I know Moral Bob from
Ghost,
Hidden in
yeah.
Plain Sight did Ghost, yeah, and I've noticed some podcasters doing that where they do
Yeah,
their
yeah.
show, but now they have
Shane, I think
ideas for
Shane
other
kind of
stuff.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah, me and
so
Shane
that's
were
cool.
even talking about that, how and Ghost and Ryan, they're both great podcasters and great shows.
Yeah, it's just
And
fun to get
Shane
all the info, the
and,
perspectives.
and me
Mhm.
and Shane were talking about how he just said it's just like he doesn't know if it's just like something in the air. Is this part of just the change that's going to go on with maybe even the change of consciousness? Who knows? But like,
Growing and ascending, like you said.
yeah, I was just he's just like I feel like there's a lot of us that have been doing this for a bit or like are doing it like passionately
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that are just like coming to this point to where we're just kind of like not getting bored, but like either it's like something to do with like the audio or the video or topics, like we're stepping up our game or changing.
We're all stepping up our game. Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Yep.
feel like we're all kind of like we're morphing into something new now.
I love that
And
because
I think the
yep,
thing is, it's just that we just want to make our show better and put out better material. You know what I'm
that's part
saying?
of it.
It's not about
Yep,
the money. I think we're actually just morphing into trying to like, just check this out
100%
and
agree.
being proud of what
Mhm.
we're doing. So we're making it look better.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I like I said, I'm only a year and a half in. I've noticed a lot of us that I started talking with, like you and everyone that we've been speaking about, especially recently. I've noticed you kind of look at how many episodes everyone has. All of us kind of started at, within 1 to 3 years
Of
ago.
each other.
And
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
turns out we're all getting to that point where we are ascending. I just set up my Patreon page finally, and I'm gonna start doing subscriptions. Like it took me a while to even get to that point, and I have other ideas for subscriber only shows I want to do. Like I'll have my free feed that anyone can just listen to my regular show, but then I'm gonna do other stuff on this under the subscription, and then so that way it's like if you really like what I'm doing for free, wait till you get a load of what I'm doing for three
Yeah.
bucks a
Yeah.
month,
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's cool. It's
Who did you
learning,
use?
growing.
Spreaker?
No, I'm on Anchor right now.
Oh, all right. Because I know when you said subscriptions, I was on Anchor. Oh, actually, it's so fucking stupid. Like I had a problem. I use Spreaker, but for some reason, Spotify, it just fucked up and wasn't working. So I literally made a Spotify account for the NY Patriot.
Oh
But
wow.
I know on Spreaker, you can actually set up things to where like you can like a subscription to where like I guess like whoever goes to follow you, if they're following you already, or I guess if you just advertise on any show and let them know,
Right.
you can offer you can do a thing to where there is extra episodes for people that sign up for a subscription.
Oh yeah, I think
I don't
Anchor
know if
does that.
Anchor works like that, but I did realize that Spreaker does that, and it was an idea. It's an idea that I have had to get a new computer. I just feel bad pulling the trigger on that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
But I was just wondering because I was going to say Spreaker. I know you can even do that with your audio shit. You can have like, subscribing to
yeah,
a
subscriber only shows, and
yeah.
you click them for yep. And well, the reason why I'm doing it through Patreon is just because I've heard other podcasters tell me that it would be such a
Well,
shame.
what's
What's
good with
that?
Patreon, you do video as well. So
That's what I'm saying. I
yeah,
mean, and if you get, let's just say for some reason they hacked off an episode for being too controversial, or one day Spotify or Anchor comes out and says we're not going to have certain content on here. Now you already have this independent platform where all your shit's already on there already, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why I was
I
thinking
have
about
heard
doing it
of
that way.
people's
But
stuff actually Patreon taking down certain shit recently. I don't
no,
know how
really,
true it is. I've heard that, and I don't know how true this is. And
man, I
I
hope
do
not.
know people
Shit.
that have, believe it or not, or they contemplated it. Somebody, I forgot who it was, that was telling me now again, like, if they're being truthful, and I can't remember who it was.
Right.
I think they actually one show, because of all the capabilities and the subscription. Believe it or not, I was going to even say as a joke, maybe even check OnlyFans. Believe it or not,
Really.
because that's a
Hmm.
paid subscription. Yes, paid subscription thing. And because I think streaming, somebody I know actually almost like got like some crazy thing through them because of the streaming and subscription
Hmm.
capabilities. But I have even been told from somebody that said that they had their shit on OnlyFans because just of the way of how I think of like how much money you get, maybe whatever reason. And I think just as a joke, they did it on OnlyFans. The person was like, dude, they took down my videos, but for fucking $15, you can go stare at women's assholes all day. He's like, but they
That's
took down my
weird.
video. He's like, yo, how does the fuck is a platform like that censor someone?
Wow, man. Because
Now,
whoever's
I don't know if
platform.
that's truthful, if they were telling me some bullshit story, but I've heard that Patreon and even that can still censor the shit that we're trying to say.
Dude, that's crazy to me. It's like what's scary about that though is it's like it goes right back to all the conspiratorial ideas that we all have about who owns these companies. And it's like, what drivel are they going to let some of us see? But then the others of us that are getting to the heart of certain matters, they're like, no, we're not going to allow this to be mass distributed to the ignorant, belligerent masses out there, and let them
Right.
figure it out. It goes right back to all the occult stuff we're talking about. It's like we can package it in a way to where you need to be smarter than the average dipshit to understand what's really going on.
That's funny.
Oh
That's
man.
funny. You're smarter than the average dipshit. Yeah, you do. You have to stop letting somebody else in a meme tell you what is and what isn't.
Tell you exactly.
You
Hmm.
have to start. And that's a big, huge thing with I even with shadow work, and I think it's like it's one of the hardest parts. It was one of the harder parts for me. You have to start looking at like, why do I believe and act and have like these things like my morals and values? Like, where am I even getting them from that I have right now?
Yeah.
What I got from parents, teachers, the neighbor, these little things that we pick up. You're going to have to like really look at that and be like, does that really like make sense, or is that actually really right? And then if you want to start discarding those things, then you have to still accept, well, you not have to love, but still accept and not hold anger towards the people that you think, even though they might have done it in a loving sense and thinking it was the best thing for you,
Yeah.
may even still things into you that you don't agree with. That's all
Yeah.
part of shadow work. You have to start looking at that and not be hateful and
Yeah. Not
resentful.
blaming. Yeah. Because it's just what
Yeah,
their
because it's like
perspective
I can
was.
look at
Yeah.
things and be like, oh, well, maybe I don't agree with like something my father instilled in me, or something like my uncle, or somebody that I still talk to now, or my brother. It's like, all right, well, maybe I don't like that they think that, but I still just I can't hate them now. I still have
Yeah.
a relationship with them,
Yeah.
so you
Man, I
still have
love.
to like forgive people too for being who they are.
100%. I completely agree.
You
And
know, it's like you're gonna realize, like, fuck, these motherfuckers influenced me, but now I still have to accept. You know, I still have to understand. Well, that's them, and I can't hate them for that.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that's a hard thing to do.
absolutely. It's definitely very, very difficult for people, even people that are aware of these types of thought processes, like we're talking about. Even for us, you still fall into it easily. Like I have days where I'm just like, God, I've been a fucking asshole to everybody
Oh
today.
yeah.
Like I need
Oh,
to
that
just
thing.
get it together, and I mean, as the logo right here, wherever the hell it is, right
Yeah, the
here.
anarchy. Yes.
I mean, I'm a big anarchist, man. Like, I believe in self development, self sufficiency, not letting other people or a group of people, no matter how classy and affluent they are, tell you how to live your fucking life, man. Like,
Well, you know what's funny,
it's all about
and
freedom.
I'm gonna say you. I mean, just even from what you said right there, and just from
Yeah.
the way you come off, to me, I'm just assuming you're actually an anarchist with half a fucking brain.
I mean, I like to think that. I appreciate
Yeah,
that. I'll take it.
because if people actually really understood, well, one, what that symbol means,
Oh, I do. Oh, yeah.
and what like it's really about, in my opinion, it really is just saying I want to bust out of this fucking slave matrix system
Yep.
that we don't belong in.
Yep.
You know, that's all you're saying, is that this is a slave system
Without
and I should.
rulers. Yep.
Yes, no slaves and no masters.
No slaves, no masters. There it is,
You
man.
know,
That's
but
exactly what it
unfortunate, you
means.
get fucking ignorant people that think same thing with do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
I
That
get
means
it
I can
all.
go be an asshole, a murderess, the rapist, and do whatever the fuck I want because it's chaos.
Dude, I
No,
get it
you
all
are
the
the
time.
ignorant. You are the ignorant that has made these things and ideas look bad, and now it's turned into a psyop of something that might
Oh,
actually had some worth behind it.
exactly. You just nailed it, dude. That's exact. I get it all the time. Oh, you want to destroy the world? What's anarchy? Oh, and I'm like, you're a Trumpist. You're a QAnoner. I'm like, if you are such a programmed lemming fuck, like you have no idea what you're talking about. You can be as mad at me for my beliefs as you want to, but I'm not pushing them on you. I'm
No,
not trying to tell you the fact that I exist threatens your cognitive dissonance and belief system. And that's on you, bro. That's on you. I'm not pushing my shit on you. You know what I
mhm.
mean? But I have principles and I do have beliefs that I adhere to. And it's a personal thing, it's a personal quest. And you nailed it, man. That's exactly what it is. It's how controlled do you think you are compared to how control are you actually when
Yes,
you
yes,
finally
it's a
get to
really
the
good
heart of
point.
the
It's a
matter,
really good point. That's a really good point.
and that's what I mean. That's a big part of my show is getting people I say it all the time. You got to look inwardly. You got to start analyzing, surgically analyzing yourself if you want to know the truth and if you want to get to the what the point is to all this existence, and
Well, let's see. I mean, you kind of
yeah,
said that to the point of all this existence. I mean, that
yeah,
kind of is what, in my opinion, what that A in that circle is representing. I mean,
exactly.
technically, you're looking to rise up to the all-seeing eye or the top of the pyramid because you want to break out of this slave system.
Nailed it, dude. It's exactly what I embody in this fucking skin suit, man. That's what my whole point is in this world, especially with regard to my podcast, man. You nailed it.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, what do you think, man? Good place to wrap. You want to call her
yeah,
for
yeah.
this
I
for
think
this
that was
round?
great.
Let's do it again, man. And like you said,
Oh, hell
let's
yeah,
pick a topic. Let's offline
sure.
think about a topic, and then, like you said, sometime in the future we'll get together and we will
Oh, for
just
sure,
we'll
definitely, man.
chop it up and just lay a topic out for people
I
and
thought
not just
this was a great interview, and I thought, it was a really good show. Especially if I
yeah,
want to
man.
reshare it myself. If I want to reshare it myself, obviously there's shit in here that I haven't mentioned on other
Yeah.
interviews. So
Yeah, man.
it
And
was a
and
really
and I
good
love
talk. I had a lot of fun, buddy.
yeah, man. It was great to meet you, great to talk to you. And like you said, man, I think there's magic in conversations. When you put the right
Oh, for sure,
dude, when you
for
put the
sure.
right spirits in a room together and they start chopping it up, like magic happens, man. I love it. And I've had great
You get in the flow of things.
yeah, yeah. And you
That's
get
why
to
they
know
got those
people.
fish hats real quick. That's why you get those fish hats because you're going with the flow upstream. You ain't got that fish hook in your mouth anymore.
Oh man, I love it. That's a good yeah, that's exactly right. All right. Well, hey, NY Patriot, give my listeners your socials and all that. Where can they find
Oh
your
yeah.
stuff?
We do have a new. We had the Occult Rejects tour and more. Unfortunately, on YouTube, as soon as we reached about 1,000 subs, they fucking gave us ridiculous, stupid strikes for stupid shit.
God damn it.
Knocked us back down. So I started Rejects and Friends. That will be, and I hate to say it, like when people join back, it's actually our best thing to watch on video. It still blows away BitChute and Rumble.
Yeah.
So I keep going at it, and I want to be at least some beacon of light of like not bullshit on YouTube.
Yeah.
So your fourth time's a charm. We have Rejects and Friends that will have the Occult Rejects, the NY Patriot, and Lux Rising all on YouTube, and then we have I can send you my link tree. It's just one fucking link. One thing.
Yep, I got mine too. Perfect.
I got then the NY Patriot. That's also on BitChute, Rumble, all major podcasts. The Occult the Occult Rejects on all major podcasts, BitChute and Rumble as well. And I also do co-host. Forgot this one. Don't want to leave this out. Spiritual Gangsters. I do co-host that. That's on all major podcasts and. YouTube, that one's a little bit more of conspiratorial, but mostly and mainly, believe it or not, we got. I might actually ask you to come on. Thinking about it now.
Nice, man. Yeah, I would be honored.
No, because this will actually be interesting. We normally try to get people to come on and tell their stories of what woke them up and what got them to be who they are today.
Oh, I love that shit.
And we haven't had an anarchist on yet, so I'm thinking this might be
shit. Well, I'm your guy, my friend.
That's what I was just thinking. So
I got no problem talking about that quest.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different of a show. It's not trying to put people on the spot, but like all honesty, it's a lot more of like you're really getting to know the person, especially if we have podcasters on there, like they're actually kind of putting themselves out there. They're getting a little personal, so people might like that. So yeah, I have that show that's on all major podcasts and YouTube, and I'll shut up now. That's all my stuff.
Oh no, that's all good, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. I would definitely be honored to come on that. And then before I go, I just want to say I love that much work that you're doing with all the different avenues, because you know what? If these platforms want to keep censoring us, then fuck them. I'm going to keep you working. I'm going to keep giving you work. You want to keep shutting people down? We're just going to keep popping up somewhere else. You're going to be working 24/7 to shut us up.
I mean, I will say I probably will pick and choose what I drop on there, but I'm still not. Sure. I'm not giving up. Like, unfortunately,
we're not stopping. Yeah, you're not stopping.
Unfortunately, there's one word. There's that one vid word that for some reason, even though they have legit changed their rules in fucking YouTube, if you look at their rules, for some reason you say anything with that, you get a fucking strike. So like,
yeah, man,
I can have a guest on, just randomly say it, and it's like I have to worry about YouTube, but. I'm not stopping. If I can only put out 3 out of the 5 shows I have, they're fucking going on there. I'm not stopping.
Hell yeah, man. The world needs us. The fly in the ointment.
Yep.
Fucking pain in your ass. That mosquito that just keeps biting you and keeps swatting at it.
Eventually, you'll just be like, fuck it. We'll just leave him alone. He's not going to stop.
Yep. Sooner or later, you're just going to have to leave it alone, or I'm going to keep you working. That's my goal. All right, man. Hey, great to meet you. Great having you on the show, NY Patriot. Definitely look forward to chatting with you in the future and having you on again. Sure, and that's the show, people. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Later.
And